Good afternoon, everybody. Probably nobody's going to be in here right now, but I am going to start it and people coming in can see. I did have it scheduled for last night and then I changed it because it was getting so late. Um, Wait, what? Hold on one second. Sarah's dog. Everybody pray for Sarah's dog. So, she lost her other dog this past January, New Year's, when she was visiting me. Her other dog now is I think she has to take him to the hospital. Sorry, she just texted me, so I just sucks because 'cause I'm so far away, I can't even do anything to be there for her. She's taking her to the vet right now. So that's crazy. Anyway, so everybody pray for Zoe, because she lost Stewie, yeah, when she was visiting me. Hold on, let me just ask her one more thing. I'm sorry, guys. She just texted, and then we'll get into this. Okay. Anyway, yeah, prayers, everybody. She's on the way to the vet right now. I guess she was working. She came home for lunch and Zoe, she said her butt was bleeding and she was like passing in and out, like passing out, and she was cold. So they said they think maybe an obstruction or infection or anal gland. I don't know. So she's on the way to the vet right now. Okay. All right. I know prayers for little Zoe. She's so little. You guys know who she. I mean, you saw Zoe. She when Sarah reads with me. She's a little doggy. She had two of them, Zoe and Stewie. They both were the same, like Chihuahuas. And Stewie had passed away when she was visiting me in Ohio, which was so crazy. She comes home to hear her dog die. It was just like, oh my god. Stewie was 14 though. I think Zoe's like 5, so Zoe's younger. So, okay. Stop it. I'm sorry. I've been waiting to get her text back because she was, trying to get everything figured out. So when I went live, she just texted back. So I just wanted to make sure everything was okay. Okay. Um, yeah, I know. It's so crazy. Like two dogs. I can't even think about it because I can't even think about Zeke. Like when I think about Zeke, because Zeke's 8 now, and I was like, oh my god, he's starting to get old. Like I can't even think about. I have to put it out of my head because I can't even think about like something happening to him. It's just they become like our children. Anybody that's a dog owner, right? You know what I'm talking about. It's like they're your kid, and they have such short freaking lifespans, and then um, if there's something wrong, they can't tell you. So usually it's when something's usually like really bad by the time you see the signs of something being wrong. Cause it's not like they could be like, hey, look, my throat hurts or my stomach hurts. They can't even tell you it. Okay. I know you're just joking, Liv, right there. You're making me laugh. Okay, so what do you guys want to go over first? I have a bunch of new documents dropped with the Idaho case. I'm just gonna start. I have them lined up. I'm gonna start, and I mapped out that stuff I wanted to map out, so I want to show you that. Um, and yeah, I'm gonna go over. Let me first go over this. Let me share my screen. Let's first go over. Um, Let's do this first. We're gonna just go over so we already seen that he purchased the knife. Okay, we already went over that last live. The last live about Idaho. He purchased the K-bar knife. He purchased a sheath. After the murders, he went and looked for a replacement sheath, like looking for a sheath again, because we know he freaking lost that. He left it there. So here's the big issue I think they're going to have is it shows that he purchased that, right? And if they do call up, they're saying like they might call up family members. I think it's maybe to show, like, to ask them, like, okay, he said it's a family account. The Amazon's a family account. Who purchased the knife? Who purchased it? Because it's either going to be, Brian or his dad, his mom, or whoever's on that account. What you're saying, one of his family members murdered him. It just doesn't even make sense. Of course. So let's say he's like, no, I just purchased it to go camping, or I just, hunting or whatever. Well, then where is it, Brian? Where is it? Let's see. If you didn't purchase it to murder anybody and you didn't kill anybody with it, then just show us where it's at then. If he just bought it for innocent purposes, then he should just give it up and be like, oh, here's the knife and the sheath. Here it is right here. See, that's not what it was for. I was just going to hunt with it or whatever I just like knives or whatever. Or here, I sold it to so-and-so. Here, you could talk to him. No, I don't see any of that going on. Where's the knife? Where's the sheath? If it isn't involved in the murders, he should just be able to be like, here it is. No murder free. Like, you could test it. There's no blood on it. I didn't hide it. So, I mean, if it's that easy, they need to show they need to just show where the knife's at. If he gave it away, bring the person that he gave it to. Whatever happened to the knife, show it then, if that's not involved. Where is it then? But he's not going to, because no, it's not going to happen, I guarantee. Okay, so then now the new documents show that he purchased a mask. And they're so right here it says the relevance. So they're going through, this is kind of interesting document, this part where it goes through and it shows like what they the documents and different things that they got and why and where. Like, let's say for instance they're got a surveillance camera, it shows like what time or what they're going to get from it. So it's really actually interesting part. So this one, they said the Dick's Sporting Goods record of sale for Brian Kohberger. It says the relevance of this information is that Brian Kohberger purchased a black balaclava from Dick's Sporting Goods on January 10th, 2022. This mask is the same type of mask described by Dylan that she witnessed worn by a male in the residence on November 13th, 2022. Now, this is the drawing. Now, for some reason, I went through all these documents and I cannot find where this is in the document. You should have saw me last night. I was scouring through them. It is not in any of the documents, but somewhere somebody got this, because all these news channels have this picture of Dylan sketching it out. If anybody could help me and point me out what document this is in and what page, because I cannot freaking find it. But it's the news channels are sharing it. This is supposedly Dylan shared this drawing. She drew it, and this is what it kind of looked like, the shape of it. And supposedly it matches like the masks, that he bought. Yeah, I cannot find it. I wasted so much time looking through like tons of documents, like just like, where is this sketch? Either I am overlooking it a million times because I went through them so many times, or it's in a document that it's not in the rest of the documents. Anyway, so yeah, that's the thing she drew out, I guess. And if you go look, like if you go, hold on, Dick's. Well, I looked it up earlier because I did on my thumbnail. Like if you go up and look at like some of the just sporting goods, what they have, like it's probably like something like this. Well, this one goes over the face too, but because this is one I have a picture of. He has it pulled over his face, but of course you could pull it down. Like you could pull it up over your mouth right here. So, I mean, it's just kind of crazy. I know a lot of people are going on, like a lot of people I get attacked because, oh, he's innocent. He's innocent. Those are coincidences. But when all of this stuff lines up, like what are the chances? It's just too many things. It's like the mask, the knife, the car is the similar type, because some people be like, well, that's not this. How do we know it's the same car? It's not just that by itself. It's everything together It's like, how do you explain all of that stuff lining up? So he fits the description. I mean, yeah, she didn't have a huge description, but he doesn't go against what Dylan described. Not at all. He bought a mask. He bought the same kind of knife. His car is similar to the car that was seen there. His phone's just miraculously, you can't, it turns off at that time of the murders. He doesn't really have an alibi. His DNA was on the knife sheath. All this stuff, he is studying crime scenes. We're going to go over his paper. He knows how, like, he knows crime scenes so good, like how to, what they would look for. And so if anybody could murder 4 people by stabbing them and not track blood up everywhere and not barely leave anything, it would be somebody like him, because somebody murdered these girls and left barely nothing behind. Who could do that? Somebody that is so meticulous and knows every single thing of what they would look for in a crime. Come on. I mean, we know somebody murdered them. It's not going to be some sloppy murderer, because it was done very clean. He made one mistake. He probably dropped that sheath or laid it down and thought he just forgot the sheath. But if he didn't make that one mistake, he would probably never have got caught. There's no way. So he made one little mistake, but you're bound to do it in the moment. You could have everything planned in the moment, but you're bound to make a mistake. And one little mistake could get you caught. He had it all planned out. And this is just allegedly, in my opinion. Okay. I know I could be wrong, but I do think if anybody could get away with it, like how it was done, it would be somebody like him, because the murders did happen. There was no blood I mean, somehow somebody did it without tracking blood. They did it without no footprints. He even talks about covering up your feet. Like I said, he probably used those things to cover his feet so he didn't track it up. And then he just took them off. What other person would think of all these things? And then I was watching this other thing, and they said that I'm going to play this clip of this other video where I think it was Court TV. I don't know. Somebody had on a guest, and they said that they actually have quite a bit, a lot of DNA. Like the amount of DNA is not just because people have been going on. Oh, it was such a little bit of DNA. They couldn't get a profile. It was so little, so little. Actually, I guess it wasn't a little amount. That was a good amount of DNA that they got off the snap. So when I heard that too, I'm like, man, people have been going around saying, oh, there's barely any DNA. No, they said that was way more than what they would need for a profile. It would be too much. They had plenty of DNA on that knife sheath. So I don't know. So anyway, my point is I don't care if people come in here and think he's innocent. That's fine. You are allowed to have your opinion and you are welcome here, but don't attack me like I'm doing something wrong for having a very reasonable opinion about him doing it. It's very reasonable. It is my opinion, but don't sit there and act like I am so stupid or I'm doing something wrong because I have that opinion. And I'm not like, influenced by the media. I'm influenced by the evidence and all the documents and all the coincidences that line up everything that's involved. That's what I'm looking at. The media doesn't affect me. I mean, I guess it will affect everybody to a degree, what you see, as much as you take it away. Like everything you see, in your life, of course is going to have some kind of effect, but I've went over the court documents. I've went over this like 2 years ago in depth. I've went over like different angles. I am going by what I see that they have, not what court TV is saying or anything like that. It's just the documents right here. Yeah, I know. I'm getting so you don't understand these people. Like, it's like, man, I'm so open-minded, and I have looked at other angles so much. If you guys followed me a couple years ago, I've looked at every angle, every different angle. I am not closed. I'm still not closed off. I'm still looking at different things like, okay, well, let me see. I'm so not closed off. I could still change my mind. But my best educated guess from what is out there and what they have is yes, I think, and it is a very reasonable opinion. It's not like I'm stupid for thinking that. And I'm not saying you guys are stupid for thinking that he's innocent. I'm just saying you can't say I'm stupid for thinking that they got the right guy either. Okay, so we could go over this in a minute, but I might go over some of the highlighted stuff, but I want to go over the paper first real quick. And then we'll go back to that. Let's go over his paper since we're talking about on this subject right now. His school paper. Very interesting. Okay. How many of you guys have already read it? So this is Brian, 5520. Okay. Crime scene scenario final. Okay. Arriving at a crime scene. So this is a paper he wrote because remember, he studied criminology. I know it is. It really is, Buffy. And I know when people are like, oh my God, what, there's no evidence, there's no anything. It's like, wait, what case are you looking at? There is evidence. And here's another thing. People don't realize like two things can be true. So when people are like, well, they screwed up and they're corrupt or they did this wrong, they did this wrong. It's like, find me a case where the cops don't screw up a little bit and they don't mess up things. But both could be true. Like they can mess up a case and do shady stuff, but it doesn't mean because certain things happen that means he's innocent because they messed up and this cop's bad and this cop screwed up here. That means he's innocent. Both could be true. Yeah, they could have screwed up some things and did some things they shouldn't have done to like make their case, stronger or, maybe like there is a part where like the AT&T files and stuff, they could have done, yeah, they could have still done that stuff, but it doesn't mean that Brian's innocent. That happens in cases. They shouldn't do that, but it happens a lot where they just want to make it stronger or they like skip steps or whatever. Not saying it should happen, but it doesn't mean that means Brian's innocent. Both can be true. Cops could be corrupt. Cops could, screw up a piece of evidence, but Brian can still be guilty. Both could be true. Anyway, crime scene scenario final. Arriving at the crime scene. So remember, he wrote this, right? The first thing to be done is to block off the crime scene in order to avoid crime scene contamination. Keeping people out of the scene minimizes evidence contamination, though many may be curious to see what occurred. So he's very aware of what they're going to do when they go in and crime scenes, probably more than some of the cops. Because he's like studying it like this, like, what do you call that? I can't think of the word I'm thinking of, but like, cops are more, I don't know how to describe what I'm saying, but he's probably more educated in the specifics of this stuff, I would say, than a normal cop, probably. Anyway, people keep out, oh, wait, hold on. The theory of transfer states that we bring something with us to the crime scene and take something away, thus skewing the crime scene from the original state by contamination. This is because the original state of the crime scene was left by the criminal suspect. A lack of contamination allows the scene to be a snapshot in time. The curious must be noted and immediately evicted from the scene. So the curious people trying to be like, ooh. Now we know it sucks because it was contaminated. You had kids all over. So people like, oh, this DNA. There was people in that house that morning. There's going to be other DNA. So plus she was out like the DNA under the fingernails. I want to, whose was it? Like, yeah, I would like to know whose it was, but there could be other explanations for that. She was out probably like touching people and like, when you're drinking and like maybe had a guy in the bar was like, hey, and touched them. I mean, you just never know. Okay, so what was I going to say? The curious must be noted and immediately evicted from the scene. People to be kept out of the scene include unauthorized civilians and any more than the absolute minimum number of law enforcement agents and forensic crime processors, waiting for backup to arrive. I should stand guard at the scene, preventing these unauthorized people and even holding back eager officers from entering the scene. I must call my immediate supervisor and inform them of a deceased white female who is approximately 35 years of age. I must obtain an initial search warrant to search the scene. Failing to do so will mean that the evidence is inadmissible. This is another reason why holding personnel from entering is key. The coroner must be called in order to pronounce the woman dead. An EMS should be called if they were not already called by the patrol officer 15 minutes earlier, as they would have provided emergency care if the woman showed signs of life. This would have been important for many reasons. Her livelihood is one reason, but for the stance of a patrol officer or criminal investigator, she may have given a dying declaration of her attacker when informed of her impending death. Forensic services are next on the list to call, as they are best equipped to handle evidence process. Wow, I'm hearing something. Do you guys hear that? Sorry. Hold on. I'm tempted to skip some of this and get to the relevant stuff or more relevant stuff. Okay, their van also contains the best equipment for a forensic investigation. All right, let me skip some of this. I should gather the following information in my notes as the investigation commences, which will later be included in my preliminary case report when the details of the case culminate. The offense, the time of day, date, approximate time of offense, if known, identification of the victim, location of the offense, method of operation. Since the offender was not there, I would be unable to record this information initially, and the specifics of the crime won't be known until confirmed by a crime lab. Getting an approximate time is important and can be indicated by rigor mortis, which sets in about 12 hours, or putrefaction, about 10 to 20 days. Putrefaction. Is that how you say it? I was going to say putrefaction, but all this information will aid me as I attempt to reconstruct the scene of the crime based on the evidence location in relation to its formal position. Equipment I will have on hand for investigation. To be prepared for a crime scene investigation, I must ensure I have a crime toolkit containing the following: a 35 millimeter camera, digital camera capable of videotaping with an adequate supply of film and power, portable lighting system to ensure quality photographs and that I do not miss or step over any evidence, assorted steel tape measures that can reach at least 25 feet, a ruler or measurement marking devices, latent fingerprinting equipment, gloves to protect the scene from contamination. This will enable that I avoid leaving my latent fingerprints. So he's saying, how could they not contaminate the scene? Well, a criminal, the perpetrator, this would be good tips for him to not leave contamination and catch him. Obviously, I mean, I guess it's not a mystery. Leave, gloves. Of course, you want gloves. Most people would know, wear gloves. Forceps and small tweezers and a pair of scissors. A small saw to take evidence, for example, drywall. So that means he's thinking all this, like he's realizing like that what they would go through to try to find evidence, right? Filter paper or small swabs for liquid evidence or trace evidence, various evidence containers for liquid and solid evidence, paper envelopes for physical evidence, evidence tape to seal off the evidence containers, casting material to take molds of possible footprints around their perimeter with a rubber container for the mixture. So he's aware, the footprints, which I swear I think he wore those things over his shoes. A magnifying device should be kept, crime scene tape for the scene, protective clothing. So what would be good for them to not contaminate would be good for the criminal to not leave his stuff behind. Protective clothing, boot covers, exactly what I think he had on. Eyewear, fiber-free overalls, face masks, hair nets, gowns, and anything that will prevent me from contaminating the scene with things I bring in with me. Yeah, I think he probably had a hairnet on top of his mask. I mean, he was probably so protected, whoever did this, because they didn't leave anything. Face mask, hairnets, gowns. I think he had those, like I said, those one covers. I'm guessing those things that go off and on really easily. They're just like disposable things. You guys know what I'm talking. I should look it up to show you guys. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. I think he could have had something like that where he just popped them over his shoes, wore them, took them off as he left the room. I guess he could have kept them on, but the only thing, or he could have put a new pair on because they would be like easy to switch. Because I'm thinking, yeah, because if he would have worn them, and then he would have got blood on them, those could have tracked it up, or I guess they could have absorbed it. But I'm thinking he could have had a few pairs of those, put them on in one room, and then he left, put on another pair to walk downstairs, and then when you know what I'm saying? He could have had a few pairs. I could be wrong on that, but he definitely had something over his feet. He could have just had them over when he killed them, then took them off and walked with like he had clean boots on then after that. I don't know. I don't know if he would have been nervous about even tracking something from his shoes and always having them on. I don't know, but he definitely had something over his shoes. Um, anyway, so a blue light with yellow glasses, which makes small trace evidence more visible, can be used to ensure that a photo is taken of all evidence. There could be a small amount of blood somewhere which wouldn't have been sampled, documented, or photographed otherwise. Entering the home for crime scene documentation and initial photography, videography. I may enter upon judicial approval of the search warrant and should do so with minimum number of personnel. Having too many personnel evident in the photography may put the integrity of the evidence into question and taint the scene. A contamination list should be made, documenting every person who enters and exits the crime scene, includes first responders, EMT, family members, investigators, all that stuff. I must ensure that myself and my fellow crime scene personnel are wearing gloves and other protective equipment as to avoid contaminating the scene with latent fingerprints. Fiber-free boot cover would also be ideal to avoid leaving physical footprints or residue from the boot. Let's look up some boot covers and see what possible things, because maybe if he's saying fiber-free, then I'm sure he didn't wear the ones that I was thinking of, because that wouldn't be fiber-free. He's probably using whatever he's talking about right here, fiber-free boot covers. Let's look that up real quick. Oh, that is what I was thinking. Oh, okay. Yeah, this is this kind of things I was thinking of, guys. So that is probably what he wore. He probably wore, if he had boots, maybe something like this. I was thinking more of these. They'd be easier to take on and off if he needed to like switch them on and off. Unless if, because the reason I think like he would have switched them is because if he would have got blood on him while like he was killing, let's say he got blood on him in one room and then he would have still had to walk, wouldn't that have tracked the blood? So that's why I was thinking the person was switching him, like taking him off when he walked or putting a new pair on after one of the, after he murdered the one, went to the one room and then before he walked out, switched to a new pair. Unless if for some reason those absorb or something and those won't track up. Because you know what I'm saying? If he did get blood on those would track though. Maybe not as bad, but those would probably track. But if he took them off, put a new pair on each time as he walked from one room to the next. And then I think Xana and Ethan were collateral damage, to be honest. So whether he put on a new pair and was going to leave the house, then he saw them, he killed them, and then maybe then he was out of them, so he took them off. Why there was a latent footprint? Think about this. Wasn't expecting him, so he wore his last pair, took them off, didn't have another pair because was only planning on the one target, took them off after because he didn't want to track it up after he killed Xana and Ethan, took them off. Therefore, his boots wouldn't have been bloody because he took them off after he probably walked out of the blood, took them off. And then it did leave a little bit of a latent footprint outside Dylan's door, remember? So maybe that's why, because he didn't intend for that. So he might not have been prepared for that one. I don't know. That's what I'm trying to decide if he just wore them and then took them off after or before. Are you guys following me? If he had like a couple pairs, because these would be easy to take on and off. But he could have wore something like this, I guess, and just took them off. Or maybe he just wipe them off. Maybe these don't track as much. I don't know. I don't want to go do any experiments to test it, but I'm just curious if that would, if he didn't even have to take them off after that. But then after Ethan and Xana, maybe he just took them off because he left that latent footprint. They said it was like a van. It looked like a triangle, like they think it might be a Vans shoe. So I think that was unaccounted for. That was not planned. I don't think Xana and Ethan was planned. Anyway, so yeah, he's aware of these fiber-free boot covers would also be ideal to avoid leaving physical footprints or residue from the boot. Anything that is fiber free and covers the mouth, hair, and overall body would be helpful in avoiding crime scene contamination since hair, saliva, skin cells, and other bodily fluid or cells may be added to the scene, thus contaminating it. Fibers can be left via the theory of exchange and would contaminate the crime scene from its initial state as the offender left it. Yeah, no, there are GF twins. I showed there. Where did I put those? Yeah, there are that's right here. There's black ones right here. I just don't know. Obviously, when he left Xana and Ethan's room, he probably took them off because he did leave a little bit of a footprint. But did he what do you guys think? Write in the comments, because do you think he had those on the whole time, or he would have had to take them off after, like, after Maddie and Kaylee? Would he have to have taken them off not to track up? Or are these like the type where he could have just kept them on and it wouldn't track as he walked through the house? Because I feel like if he did get blood on him, like, you would have to take them off. I don't know. I'm just thinking he had a couple pairs, and he, like, took those off after Kaylee and Maddie put him probably in a plastic bag, either went out with clean boots or put on another pair to walk out with, so there's no tracking, and then ran into Xana and Ethan, killed them, and then was stuck because he didn't have another clean ones to put on. So he walks out, probably takes off that second pair, and then walks out just with his boots and leaves that latent footprint, maybe. I don't know. So maybe he went in with two pairs. What do you think? No, Silver Fox isn't a troll. Silver Fox just feels really strongly that he's innocent. But as long as they're respectful and don't remember, you don't know, we don't know. It's just an opinion. So don't use terminology like you're wrong, I'm right, because none of us do, but because that's very off-putting. And what I was trying to explain to somebody in comments, if you really want somebody to take you seriously, that no, people know that nobody knows for sure, so like for when people come on like, nope, you're wrong, I'm right, I know this, then nobody's going to really take you seriously or listen to you, because that's just no, that's not the mentality. Nobody, no, you don't know if you're wrong or you're right. So like everybody's free to be in here, but just try to be like respectful. And if you want to be listened to, I'm telling you, that's not the route to go. Is the route to go is like, hey, listen, no, listen, this is my opinion. I think he's innocent because of this. Check this out. Like, be more open, and people will listen. I'm telling you. It's just very off-putting when people go on like, you're wrong, I'm right. I'm not saying you do that, Silver Fox. That's why you seem to be pretty respectful, but I'm just telling you, like, we're all going to have different opinions. There are going to be people here who think he's innocent, and that's fine. But just, we all have different opinions. We all see things different for a different reason. And I guess it only matters what the jury is going to decide. And I personally think they have a strong case, in my opinion, but I guess we'll see what the jury thinks. And of course, like the defense's job is to defend their person. So of course they're going to make their side to seem, and so is the state side. I know the state's job is to defend the state, the victims, but she's good. Ann Taylor's good. She's very good at what she does, obviously. So, I mean, of course she could be really convincing, but I read both sides, and I've looked at both sides, and I still am coming to the opinion that I think it's him, especially now more. I feel more stronger than it's him now that these new documents come out shows that he did buy the knife, he did buy the black mask. That now I even feel more strong that they got the right guy, to be honest, after all this stuff, after all the documents come out. Okay. The first thing for me to do is take a coordinated series of crime scene photographs with the camera. Wait, would I miss something? Oh, I don't think I did. The feast photos may be taken prior to the movement of any objects. The photograph should be taken from a general view of the exterior of the home. as well as general views of interior, blah, blah, blah. Setting up portable lighting ensures that elements of the crime are adequately illuminated. The photos should be in color as to provide the most accurate image. Wait, hold on. Recording these details will ensure that the defense attorney does not attempt to devalue the quality of your evidence, which may make it inadmissible. Let me see if I could skip. Next photos of specific rooms. The deceased woman in a living room who should be photographed. They want adequate lighting, specific shots focus on the evidence of harm on her body and clothing, bruises on her face, marks on her neck, the bloody shirt, and any other signs of postmortem lividity should be photographed and taped without moving the victim. This will show if an offender moved the woman as to manipulate the crime scene. Just shows you what he's all aware of. Does she have defense wounds, or are there hesitation marks on her related to the knife? Or are there multiple stab wounds? This must be photographed and taped. Is the mark on her neck related to the hanger near her? The photographs make it sure that these items were indeed present at the crime scene. Um, the knife should be photographed under adequate light. The misshapen the hanger should be photographed under adequate light. The furniture and children's furniture should be photographed. Is there any sign of forced entry to the home? This would be evident by broken glass from windows and pry marks on the doors or windows surrounding the house. Any physical evidence not limited to the knife or hanger, as well as any biological evidence like bodily material or fluids. Okay, let's see. The crime scene sketch should be measured by the criminal investigator and accurately display the proportions of physical evidence. Any inaccurate portrayal of the location of evidence can influence the juror perception of the guilt or innocence of the suspect. Yeah, it's just very detailed. The crime lab will be able to decipher with scientific certainty what is and not an original element of the crime. Staging is common. For example, the offender may have taken items from the house to make it look like a burglary turned robbery, which went wrong. The official crime report should include the accurate sketch of the following details: the name of the investigator, identifying badge number, detail location, date and exact time. Okay. Um, confirming alibis or exposing lies. So the location of this evidence is very important, for it may give us following information. Yeah. Confirming alibis or exposing lies, connecting a suspect to the crime or eliminating suspects, the identification of contraband, stolen property, and other illegal items, identifying victims if they are not identified, providing investigative leads. See, I think he was so confident, my opinion, if it's him, I think he was so confident that um that he wasn't even there, he wasn't gonna get caught, that he didn't even plan an alibi. He doesn't even have a freaking alibi. Talking about fingerprints. Oh, here we go. Smaller items of biological or trace evidence, such as hair and fibers from clothing, must be collected using metal forceps or tweezers. Yeah. chain of custody and inventory receipts. The careful description of evidence, when and where the evidence was found and who found it are all related. It's described and transported and placed in the evidence locker. The knife. Oh, here we go. So if she had cell phone or computer nearby, this should be described, logged, and transported to the digital forensic lab. Did she communicate with anyone? Did this communication indicate a conflict? Did her husband or boyfriend contact her? Did anyone else contact her? Surveillance footage in the trailer park, eyewitnesses. It's crazy because I mean, some of this stuff is how they caught, it led to him. I don't know. I'm not going to read it all, but pretty interesting that. Let me take a sip of. Okay, so let me see what else I highlighted on this. I'll read it. I went through like all the new documents and highlighted some stuff I wanted to read. So I read. Okay, defendant's objection to state's motion in limine self-authentication of records filed on March 17th, 2025. It is also understood that admission would be dependent on the state showing the relevance of the evidence, replying to specifically to defendant's response. So it's showing all the stuff like the Linda Lane surveillance from November 13th. The footage is maintained by property management. The state would seek admission of this footage. The relevant footage is taken on November 13th, approximately 0.3 miles from King Road from the house at 3:29, showing the suspect vehicle area of the crime scene prior to the homicides. And then you have the other, or the 1330 Linda Lane, November 13th at 3:30 to 4:07 a.m., showing the suspect traveling around the area. Then you have Albertson's video surveillance, November 13th. The relevant footage is November 13th at approximately 12:46 to 1:06. I had mapped out all this, so we're going to go over the map on all this, like his travel. I know I did it on the last slide, but I actually have it like drawn, like the line drawn, so that now that I won't be figuring it out as we go. I'll show you. Amazon financial user for Brian. Order history from January 5th to December 13th. Then you have the AT&T phone records. Why did I skip this one? Oh, no, I didn't. It's just describing that. November 14th. His AT&T records for November 12th to November 14th. Another one for June 23rd. Call detail records were provided both for Maddie and Xana. Xana. From May 16th to August 16th. Bagel shop video surveillance, footage taken from 1:40 a.m. to 2 a.m. So that would be Bank of America records for Bethany and Xana. So there's a lot of them that says the state no longer plans to rely on that for evidence. The Banner Bank, they don't. Cafe Arista at 1:40 a.m. It shows the timeline of Kaylee and Maddie, so it'll probably show them on there. Corner Club will show the timeline for them. So it just goes through all the stuff they're going to use. Costco, this is 11:59 a.m. It shows the defendant, his vehicle and actions hours after the homicides. DeSales student records regarding Brian. The state, Dick's Sporting Goods on January 10th. It shows that he bought that mask. Financial records for Kaylee. They're not going to use it anymore. DoorDash records for Xana and Ethan. And this So it's 3:59, which it gives us a time, which is interesting. Well, that's good. It says from DoorDash regarding delivery to the King Road house, November 13th at 3:59 a.m. So it shows a timeline of events of the DoorDash. Early warning records, they're not going to use anymore. They're not going to use this. They're not going to use financial records from Kaylee. The ENS services, Johnson Avenue, they're going to pull footage from at 5:26 a.m. showing the suspect's vehicle. We're not using that. Floyd's cannabis surveillance, that will show 3:02 a.m. It'll show the vehicle. So yeah, it just goes the grub truck surveillance, Forest Day. The state has provided information related to the relevancy of this item. Expert disclosure, Michael Douglas. Sure, yeah. Latah Sheriff's body camera, August 21st. Joanne Fabrics, they're not going to use that. I'm going to see if there's. Yeah, so. Anyway. Sunset Mart. Sunset Mart. Anyway, it just goes through all that, which is good because it gives you the times. I don't know. It's a pretty helpful thing to, if you want to go back and like, well, if once we get all the surveillance, but we'll probably have to wait for the trial for that. All right, let me see what else I have highlighted on this one, and then we'll move to the next document. Because I mean, I just don't have time to, I'm not gonna have time to read every single new document. This is Kaylee's Corner Club receipt, Kaylee Gonzalez. It shows that she got 9 well vodka, 2 add juice, 1 $4 pint. This was from the night at 12:22 a.m. that night. So it's just probably to show a timeline, you know. Oh, it's upside down now. Oh, this is the paper that we just read. Oh, let me make it smaller so I could just see what. This just shows like Brian's Elantra, the application, and there's title for the vehicle and stuff, which is not, I mean, there's no use going over that. Show his license. Registration was just done for Washington. Just May 2023. Here, where he got his Washington state license. Just that year. And it just shows that, basically. So that's that. And then this one, I still want to go through that and see which parts I want to read of this transcript. It could be interesting, but we'll go through that later. Okay. So this comes now Brian C. Kohberger, and through his attorneys, hereby files the company affidavit of Cy Ray in support of their objection to the state's motion in limine. Okay, so this is the AT&T thing I was telling you about, so we'll read through it. And that's what I'm saying. Just because they did something that they probably shouldn't have done, it doesn't mean that makes Brian innocent, though. Both could be true, and I think a lot of people, they do that a lot, where they're like, oh, law enforcement is corrupt and they did this, this, and this. That means he's innocent. But like, look at everything. Yeah, they screwed up and they shouldn't have done things, but it's still, it doesn't mean that Brian's innocent to me. Like, that's not what that means. I feel like both could be true. It does make you wonder why they did some stuff sometimes, but it's still a strong case to me. It's still like too much, where it's like, even so, there's just too much that would have had to have been happened. It just the probability of all this stuff matching up is just so rare that to do it, like, I don't know, it just outweighs like this shady thing that they did. It just that the evidence outweighs that. Yeah, they suck. They probably regret doing it. It sucks that they did this. But to me, this doesn't mean Brian's innocent. But I'll read it. I mean, it does. It of course, when I was reading it, it made me wonder, like, okay, are they trying to hide something? But it's like the other evidence. I mean, it's there. So I don't know. So yeah, I may have some doubts sometimes, but I still keep going back to his. There's too much. I still go back to his guilt, in my opinion. It's just too much, too many other things. Anyway, so there's this guy, where are we at? He's been working in a field of call detail record for over 25 years. It goes through his like resume basically. He became certified police officer in the state of Arizona in 1996. Hold on one second. I have to keep in touch because Sarah's going to the vet, and I just want to make sure. Hold on one second. Hmm. Hmm. I hope. I don't know. Her dog's not doing good. I just feel so bad because she lost Stewie last in January. Oh, anyway, let me keep my phone up here so I don't miss anything. Okay, I'm hot. All right, AT&T records. Okay, so he's going through basically his resume. He spent 20 years in law enforcement, in the primary role of detective. Hold on. Hold on one second. Sorry, guys. Okay, she just got there, so I was just making sure, seeing what was going on. Oh my God. Everybody pray for Zoe. Hold on. Oh. Okay. Um, I spent nearly 20 years. So I'm not going to read all this, but he's just going through how much experience he has. He's retired from law enforcement. He started a business called ZX that created software for law enforcement to map and analyze call detail records. As part of that business, we maintained software that supported every known call detail record provided to law enforcement in the United States. To date, the system has analyzed over 3 billion calls from call detail records provided by cell phone companies in the United States. In 2021, LexisNexis purchased ZX, and to date is still using and selling software I created. Um, as a result of this experience, I've worked directly with engineers at the cell phone companies for over 2 decades, and I am intimately familiar with the type of data they maintain in the normal course of business and provide to law enforcement through a legal demand process. So basically, I'm going to skip through this, but I mean, he's just showing like how, versed he is in this all. And it does, I mean, it, of course, it does make you wonder what they were. There's one part, it's like, were they trying to hide something that they found that doesn't, but see, like, as much as they shouldn't do this, and this could really screw stuff up for the state and the case, but it's like, sometimes I know, I mean, this is wrong, but like sometimes it's like, do they do it because maybe it's something that like it doesn't make their case stronger. It just creates maybe some doubt. The case is pretty strong anyway, I think, but like sometimes they do stupid things where it's like something like this, where it'd be better just to have done it right. But now it creates like all this, like, well, wait, were they hiding something? I mean, maybe they were. Maybe it was something that, but I don't know. Hopefully they'll have to turn it over and we could see, because I don't think it's gonna make him innocent, because I don't think he's innocent. So like for all the people that are thinking it, I would prefer them show what it was, so then it could, it would help to show like, okay, it's not enough to make him innocent. But anyway, sorry if those of you guys that don't haven't read this, you probably are confused what I'm talking about, but we're gonna get to all of it. Okay, so let's get to it. Time advance. Time in advance and records are maintained by cell network providers that provide a time measurement. This time measurement refers to the amount of time it takes a radio signal to travel from a cell site to a mobile device and back to the cell site. Given the signal travels at a known constant speed of light, it is possible to use the measurement to determine the distance the mobile device is taken from a known site. When multiple cell sites record timing advanced data in short periods of time, it is possible to use trilateration to determine the location of a mobile device. The use of timing advanced data in this manner is one of the most accurate ways for law enforcement to locate a mobile device. Given these records, Given these records are available in a historical context, it is possible to conduct an analysis of time advanced data to pinpoint historical locations of a mobile device at a given date and time. It is also possible to determine routes of travel, stagnation, and when a mobile device is powered on and off. As a result of its accuracy, requesting timing advanced data has become a standard practice for all law enforcement in the United States, and it is regularly requested through legal process relating to a criminal investigation. AT&T timing advance. In August 2021, I was approached by an FBI agent to assist in analyzing a type of record set identified as AT&T timing advance report, and it was the first time I was made aware of this type of data from AT&T. This is in 2021. Okay. Upon request, I can provide the date, time, and location. An FBI agent I assisted with the record set. As of the year 2021, AT&T had not officially released a timing advance report to law enforcement. Therefore, the ZX software program did not yet support AT&T timing advance records. As a result of this interaction with the FBI, I obtained a copy of the timing advance report from Special Agent and forward it to our software engineers to write code within the ZX system to support future uploads of this timing advance report. The next day, I was informed by Special Agent that the AT&T timing advance report was not supposed to be released, viewed outside of the FBI, and that individual requested I return the report and not have any software developed to support that data they had shown to me. I did return the report. However, due to the interaction explained here, there's a paper trail documenting the facts of this interaction. I have firsthand knowledge that AT&T was providing the FBI with timing advance reports prior to August of 2021. AT&T legal demands. During my career working with call detail records from every cell provider in the United States, I have been involved with thousands of cases in which call detail records are obtained from these companies, leading the way in the establishment of best practices within this field of investigation. I wrote the provided custom search warrants for every provider, distributed them to thousands of law enforcement. Okay, so let's skip some of this because there's a lot to read. I have worked with the AT&T Global Legal Demand Center for over 15 years. I have firsthand knowledge that the AT&T GLDC is one way, not the only way, for law enforcement to obtain call detail records from AT&T. I have firsthand knowledge that there is another way to obtain call records from AT&T without going through GLDC. Over the course of many years, AT&T has had several different programs in partnership with federal law enforcement, primarily the FBI, that allowed for call detail records to be disseminated to the FBI without going through the standard GLDC process. The first AT&T timing report I was presented and had a chance to review and become familiar with in the August 2021 was obtained from AT&T through one of these programs, not through GLDC. I have been involved in numerous investigations where AT&T call details were obtained through these AT&T programs outside the GLDC. I have firsthand knowledge and experience in working with individuals at AT&T associated with with the other programs. One such individual is Boy Jackson. Mr. Jackson is a program director at AT&T who manages many of the programs I'm referencing. Mr. Jackson is the primary contact for the FBI when requesting records outside of the standard GLDC process. GLD disseminating timing advance reports. The state is correct in their claim that AT&T GLDC did not provide law enforcement with AT&T timing advance reports until May of 2023. As a matter of fact, in May of 2023, the working group known as GLDC had only begun their storage of timing advance records. The first official release of AT&T timing advance data was not provided to law enforcement to June 2023 by GLDC. In 2022, the FBI obtained AT&T timing advance records from another source outside GLDC. AT&T timing advance records in the state's possession. During this investigation, law enforcement obtained the following timing advance data. 2 of the victims had AT&T phones. Law enforcement obtained AT&T timing data on both of their phones. Law enforcement developed an early investigative lead in this case. That person had an AT&T phone at the time of the crime. Law enforcement obtained this AT&T timing advance data. Law enforcement also requested a tower dump consisting of AT&T timing advance data. This request involved AT&T providing all the connection between 2 specific cell sites in Moscow during a 2-hour period. The data produced was AT&T timing advance data. In all, there were over 3,800 AT&T mobile phones identified in the timing advance tower dump. The AT&T timing advance data was obtained by the FBI using an internal source at AT&T, Mr. Boy Jackson, who is not associated with the GLDC working group. GLDC was not used to obtain this data. A forensic examination of the AT&T timing advance records in the state's possession show Mr. Jackson's association with the reports. There is work product in the state's possession created by FBI showing the AT&T timing advance data was not only obtained, but regularly referenced and used in the course of this investigation. Its existence is well known to the investigators and prosecutors. Chain of custody. The state has provided a certificate of authenticity to defense in relation to the timing advance records described above. The COA was created in April of 2024 and issued by the director of the GLDC, Stephen Gordon. I have previously worked with and am familiar with Mr. Gordon. The COA specifically states, I am qualified to authenticate the records attached hereto because I am familiar with how the records were created, managed, stored, and retrieved. I have personal knowledge that in the event Mr. Gordon was required to testify, he would clarify that prior to May of 2023, neither he nor the AT&T GLDC working group was involved with AT&T timing advance records. Additionally, there is forensic evidence contained within the records that indicate they were not produced by AT&T GLDC, nor were they produced in the year 2024. In reviewing this data, I contacted and communicated with Mr. Gordon to clarify the chain of custody related to these records. Mr. Gordon and AT&T legal representee informed me that Mr. Gordon would not be the individual to certify these records if required to do so despite issuing the COA. In my review of this information, there is evidence to suggest the chain of custody involving these records and COA were produced well outside of AT&T's normal practice. There is missing information and data associated with this request. The prosecution's prior claims that AT&T timing advance data did not exist in 2022 further complicates this issue. It is my expert opinion that any testimony proffered on behalf of the FBI or AT&T on this matter would clearly reveal these issues. So you guys are following this, right? I hope, because I know sometimes, I had already read this, and so I know with me, like, I need to, like, sit down and actually read it. I don't know if just me reading it to you or if you're following it, because it could be kind of confusing in a way. But so they're saying there was no records before 2022, okay? They're saying they got it, what, May 2023? Because that's where they did it. They did it through the right protocol, through the GLDC, right? But they did get the records through, like, a side what's that guy's name? Kind of like a way that, the FBI could get records, but it's not like the standard what they should be doing. They should be going through the GLDC, from what I'm understanding, and the fact that that's not the biggest issue is because it seems like they do that. They have been doing that, but the biggest issue is the fact that they're saying that they didn't get any records before that, but they did get records before that. But because officially through GLDC, they didn't get them until that date, but they did get them through another source. And the fact that they didn't disclose that and they're saying that is kind of, that could hurt them. Oh, really, CB? See, I haven't done my research on this Ray. Okay. Okay, I'm going to look into that. But I'm not done reading this, but hopefully I'm not good at explaining something sometimes, but hopefully you guys are following it. I understand it, but sometimes I'm bad at putting it into words. But let me read the rest though. Evidence in direct contradiction to the state's motion. So basically, but this is just not looking good for the state. It sucks because this could hurt, these girls getting justice, because these little things that do happen in a lot of cases, they screw up, and sometimes it could hurt the case where, it could hurt them. And it sucks because I do think they do have a good case. It's just these little things like this. But let's see. In my review of this investigation, I have read numerous emails sent and received by law enforcement pertaining to their investigation. One such email dated 11/15/2022 was sent to Prosecutor Ashley Jennings at her Latah County government email address. This email is from Moscow Detective Lawrence Mowry. The email is informing Mrs. Jennings of Detective Mowry's recent contact with FBI Special Agent Balance. Special Agent Balance informed Detective Mowry that AT&T can provide timing advance data and to make sure it is listed in the search warrant. So this is an 11. So remember, they're saying this email is dated 11/15/2022. It's from Detective Lawrence. Okay. To Prosecutor Jennings, and then okay, hold on. Let me just Balance informed Detective Mowry that the AT&T can provide time in advance data to make sure it is listed in the search warrant. Detective Mowry is specifically asking Prosecutor Jennings to make sure that AT&T timing data is listed in the warrant prior to the report ever being distributed by the working group known as GLDC. So the warrant for AT&T, okay, so Special Agent Balance is at making sure that he's saying to Prosecutor Jennings, make sure you have that listed in the warrant, the AT&T warrant. Make sure you have it listed prior to the report ever being distributed by the working group known as GLDC. So make sure you have that prior to them distributing it. You know what I'm saying? But here they already got records prior to that from an outside source. That it does seem like a lot of law enforcement uses these outside sources. I mean, you've seen that it said like GLDC is not the only way they get it. It's one way, but it is probably the way they should now. But the thing is they didn't disclose this. They didn't disclose that they got it in a different way. And They didn't disclose what they got either. So it's like, what it's like, are they hiding something? Did they figure out something in their I don't know. I mean, it's a mess, I feel like. What do I wanna see what chat's saying. Okay, let me finish this. Mrs. Jennings did respond to Detective Mowry's email inquiring on the specific verbiage needed to obtain AT&T timing in advance. This email is abundantly clear evidence that Mrs. Jennings was not only aware of the existence of AT&T timing in advance in 2022, but also shows her intention to obtain it through a legal process from AT&T. This email communication with prosecutor Ashley Jennings is the same prosecutor Ashley Jennings who filed the current and contradictory motion stating AT&T did not produce time in advance records in 2022, which they did. Um, and it's because they did it. They got it in a way that I guess they shouldn't have. You shouldn't get it that way, right? See, I'm still a little bit confused in the way that you could get it a different way because at the beginning he goes on to say that GLDC is not the only way; it's just one way, right? So, like, my question is, if they would have disclosed that they got it this other way, would that have been bad, or is that like a no-no? Like, I'm getting like mixed feelings. Like that's a no-no. You shouldn't get it. You should get it through the GLDC. You shouldn't get it that way. But if they weren't even available until after a certain point, how were you supposed to get it before that? Does that make sense? So I mean, I don't know. Was the fact that they got it in a different way the problem too? Is that why they were afraid to disclose it? Or were they afraid to disclose it because what they found in it? Um, I mean, I guess it could be a little bit of both, but I feel like if they're all doing it that way, it seems like they're saying law enforcement has been doing that way for years, getting it that way, then is that really an issue? Or is it like something that's like hush hush, they don't tell, like they never say how they get it, they just get it in a way that they shouldn't get it? Is that maybe somebody could help me out on that? Because I don't know. I'm not gonna act like I know I'm like well versed in this stuff because this is the first time even under hearing about GLDC. I didn't know nothing about it. Um Hold on one second. Okay. Hold on. Hold on one second. Okay. Missing AT&T time in advance. In my review of this investigation, based on my training and experience, it is incredibly unusual that the defendant's AT&T time in advance records were not obtained by the FBI. The FBI demonstrated their ability to obtain AT&T time in advance in November 2022 by obtaining AT&T time in advance records on over 3,800 mobile devices, none of them being the defendants. When it comes to location data from AT&T, um, timing advance data can be some of the most accurate data available. Additionally, it contains connections to the network other than the typical voice, text, or data connections. This allows law enforcement to not only see more data, but more accurate data. Anytime a defendant's locations are in question, a timing advance report would be asked for as a standard operating procedure. Moscow Police Department, by the way of the FBI and with the knowledge of prosecutors, demonstrated their awareness of this standard procedure when they obtained AT&T's timing advance data on over 3,800 mobile devices. When detectives and prosecutors requested and served two different search warrants to AT&T on the defendant's AT&T account, they requested the exact same time in advance data they previously did when they obtained time in advance data from AT&T on over 3,800 mobile devices. They also maintain the same process and utilizing the FBI to serve the legal demands on AT&T. There is no difference in the verbiage, legal process, or individuals that produced AT&T time in advance data on the 3,800 mobile devices and the request for the defendant's AT&T time in advance data that allegedly yielded nothing. Additionally, on December 23rd, 2022, the FBI sent a communication directly to AT&T specifically detailing their request for the defendant's AT&T time and advance records. There is no reason to believe that AT&T would not respond to this request. It is my wait, this is on December 20. It is my expert opinion AT&T time and advance data did exist for the defendant's mobile device in 2022. It's requested from AT&T by the investigators involved in this case. The investigators previously demonstrated their ability to obtain AT&T time and advance data in 2022. Failure to produce the defendant's AT&T timing advance data is either a gross deviation from standard practice or intentionally withheld from a release and discovery. Failure to produce the defendant's AT&T time and advance data is either a gross deviation from standard practice or intentionally withheld from release and discovery. It is my expert opinion in reviewing all the evidence that has been disclosed by the state that AT&T time and advance data was available on the defendant's phone in 2022. There is overwhelming evidence showing the state obtaining and using AT&T time and advance data in the course of this investigation in 2022 on over 3,800 AT&T mobile devices other than the defendants. There is no doubt that the author of this current motion, Prosecutor Ashley Jennings, knew or should have known. AT&T time and advance data did exist in 2022. She was directly involved in the legal process in obtaining it and was aware of work product created from it to further the investigation. The current motion is a deliberate misrepresentation to the court to further conceal false statements used to obtain probable cause against the defendant and conceal exculpatory evidence from discovery. See, now that I'm reading this over, I'm understanding it better. So no, they didn't do anything wrong by obtaining it this other way. But what they did is they didn't disclose it, and they didn't why didn't they had 3,800 devices. None was the defendant's. But now that I'm reading it, it's not as big. I mean, it is, but it's just like I don't know why they kept it, but they probably just didn't find anything. Like, what do they mean conceal false statements? Like, I don't see. And Taylor, I mean, his defense is good. They're trying to pull out everything. So, I mean, they're pulling out trying to do everything. And it is, I mean, it's creating thousands of people thinking, he's innocent. It is because she's good at what she does. There are probably hundreds of thousands of people think he's innocent because there is a big group of people that do think he's innocent. And I think it has a lot to do with, her motions and stuff and what she's playing the game very well, but it's not convincing me. Now, yeah, no, now that I've read it, it doesn't, I mean, yeah. I mean, it wasn't the defendant's phone. I mean, what's it gonna show? Like, go through the 3,800 mobile devices? Okay, if you think it's concealing exculpatory evidence, then if I was a state, I would just hand it over and go ahead. Like, find something exculpatory because I don't think they're gonna. I mean, what? I mean, I'm sure Ann Taylor will find stuff because I mean that's her job, so she'll try to find stuff and make it fit. But I don't know. Doesn't convince me. It's the game and they screwed up and now their case is going to hurt a little bit. Because they did screw this up a little bit, but I still, I mean, I don't know. So, Silver Fox, I mean, what do you think's in there? What do you think what's the exculpatory evidence though? I want somebody's, opinion that thinks that this is that thinks he's innocent. What is it that you think that they're hiding from these other phones? They're just basically guessing that it might be concealing exculpatory evidence. But let's find it. What is it? I don't know. Yeah. How is it I don't buy its misrepresentation to the court to further conceal false statements. I mean, it sucks that they did that they didn't disclose that, but I don't think it's because he's innocent. Oh, thanks, CB. Let me look at it. Hold on. Let's see. Oh, it's not linking. Let me see if I could copy and paste the article because it didn't link. I don't know why sometimes it does that. Hold on. So this is what CB just sent me. Let's see. Brian Kohberger's defense has hired a police officer who now hosts a true crime podcast to prove he was out driving by all by himself on the night the 4 of Idaho night 4 University Idaho college students were slaughtered. The expert Syray founded ZX Corporation, which provides tools for the analytical mapping in 2014 and sold the company to LexisNexis in 2021. Ray now lives on a ranch in Arizona and hosts the Socialite Crime Club podcast. Oh, let me make this bigger. Hold on. Oh, shoot. According to his CV, Ray's 20 years of law enforcement experience included 13 years in criminal investigation and 8 years in SWAT tactical operation. He lists development of training courses in training tactical units and cell tracking and operations experience. He says he has provided expert testimony in court consultation in Utah, Arizona, Montana, Colorado, New York, California, Florida, and Texas. According to Newsweek, Ray's testimony about cell phone movements helped convict Daniel Wood in 2021 of the 2018 murder of her ex-boyfriend in Montana. It's not clear if Ray still uses the technology his former company uses, although he apparently testifies in cases that involve its use. That technology, Trax, was barred from a Colorado courtroom last year after a judge heard testimony from law enforcement and others who found the technology lacking. He ruled that the company's flashy maps hid a sea of unreliability that the jury won't see. District Court Judge Juan Villaseñor's ruling was specific to ZX and its Trax technology and did not include any other cell tracking companies. In some, Trax and its methods have been routinely and sharply admonished by the scientific and legal community, and the people haven't directed the court to any evidence showing otherwise. He also said Ray, who claimed Trax maps were 94% to 96% accurate, was not a credible witness. He inflated his credentials inaccurately, claiming to be an engineer. The judge wrote saying that Ray had testified that he is more of an engineer than an engineer. As noted, his sole academic degree is an associate's, and there's no evidence that it's related to engineering, nor is there evidence that Ray's taken any engineer classes. The judge wrote, to be sure, he's created a booming business and has successfully pitched Trax to several law enforcement agencies, but a sound business model doesn't equal an accurate error rate. Kohberger's public defender, Ann Taylor, listed Ray as her expert witness last week when she filed a notice to provide an alibi to Kohberger's whereabouts on November 13th. So I would like to see what he could come up with on that. Like, okay. But then, like, do we trust him? Because, experts, a lot of the times it goes for both ways. I know a lot of the times these experts are paid by what side they're working on, and they will kind of merge their testimony to kind of go with whatever side they're working for. I mean, it is what it is. It's a game. It's this justice system, and it is kind of a game in a way where it's like, who plays the best, like you could work somebody could really like find some loopholes and get like a guilty guy off, and then it could go the other way because a guy could be innocent, and it goes both ways. I get it, but just because he's somebody's expert doesn't make everything he says right. But I would like to see what he'd come up with. So, I mean, but that's the thing though. Am I reading this wrong? Because then when they did go through GLDC, they did get his phone information. So if they're saying it's a very accurate, right? They did get it. It was just the fact that the stuff before they didn't disclose, but then they did do it. What I right? They did go through GLDC after they had already did the 3,800 of other phones and didn't disclose that, but then they did do it on his phone after, and that stuff was what they did disclose. So if that stuff's really accurate, then that should tell us right there, whatever the state found through that system, right? Does that am I making sense? So I mean, I don't understand. They're going to have him counter what GLDC found or something through because that is what they disclosed. They disclosed the parts of Brian's phone. So, I mean, I just don't understand. Maybe I'm not understanding something right. The stuff that they didn't disclose are the 3,800 mobile devices that weren't Brian's phone. It didn't include his phone. The stuff that included his phone is the stuff they did disclose, and they did go through GLDC. So, I mean, you guys follow me? If that's accurate, then the state should have accurate information because he's even, I mean, freaking, what's his name? Rye is even saying this stuff is one of the most accurate stuff. Well, that's what they went through for Brian's phone. So shouldn't we trust it? I don't, I mean, but yeah, I mean, they should have disclosed the other phones, what they found, but maybe there's so, I mean, it was probably such an abundance of information, 3,800 phones. I mean, they just didn't find much, or there's just like, I don't know. Who knows the reason? They should have, but they didn't. Doesn't convince me though that he's innocent because of that. Sorry. Okay. All right. What is this one? This one is, oh, I'm not gonna, this is, I already went through the text messages. The only reason I wanted to say this because I like how they have it set up where if we ever need to go back and rely on like, oh, let me reference this is pretty, I like how they have it organized. And they think the state thinks between 4 and 10 that they went to sleep, but I don't know. Because like that's when their phone stopped to activate like the activity 4:37 and then it picked back up at 10:23. So wait, I thought there wasn't there something at like 8? Maybe I'm remembering wrong. Okay, so I'm gonna skip that. It's just the text messages. This one, this makes me mad, the whole 3D model thing, because it's like, why did they freaking demolish the house? So the defendant objects to the state's motion to eliminate admissibility of demonstrative exhibits in the memorandum. So at the outset, it is necessary for the state to clarify the history between the parties on the issue of a 3D model. Is it true that the state's initial plan was to ask for a 2-scale 3D model of the 1122 King Road residence? As a part of that, and at least partially in response to Ms. Taylor's October 2023 request for additional information, the state initiated inquiries for underlying supportive data for its own review and to share with the defense. Eventually, the state realized that there was not any need for a 2-scale model and ultimately settled on proposing a not to scale model, 3D model as a demonstrative illustrative exhibit. Okay. So they're saying it's not supposed to be a 2-scale model, right? While the emails the defendant attached to this objection make a reference to a scale 3D model, the defendant neglected to include the balance of the email thread, which includes emails between Ms. Taylor and Ms. Jennings on February 4th, 2025. The emails between the undersigned and Ms. Taylor from February 28th to March 4th where the state advised the defendant that the state had finally received supplemental information regarding the 3D model and that the state was electing to use a 3D model as a demonstrative exhibit for any witness who might talk about their residence, not an actual scale model. Demonstrative exhibits are properly admissible when the exhibit supplements the testimony of a witness or assists the jury in obtaining a better understanding of the facts issues. Exhibits are inadmissible for demonstrative purposes when they do not illustrate or make clear some issue in the case or where they are of such character to prejudice the jury. The appropriate test is an Idaho R. IVID balancing probative value against the dangers of unfair prejudice, distraction, confusion of the issues, a waste of time. A diagram offered for illustrative purposes needs only to be relevant to illustrate a witness testimony. It does not have to be shown to be precisely accurate or consistent with the testimony of other witnesses. The state submits that a not-to-scale illustrative model is no different than a diagram or a hand-drawn sketch or a floor plan. The state recognizes that it will need to establish a foundation that the 3D model fairly depicts or represents the floor plan, and that the use of the model will be helpful to a witness in explaining their testimony and to the jury in understanding the evidence. So they want to be able to use it to, to help the jury understand. And so I think if they're not saying it's to scale, it's just to kind of visualize things for like a testimony, but the defense is just trying to go against anything. They're nitpicking every single thing. Wait, I thought hold on. Oh, that was the 911 call. That is why I skipped this one. I didn't realize that was Dylan on the phone, you guys. That's why I wanted to point that out. So why didn't I realize? So I knew which one Bethany was, but I didn't realize the one person was Dylan, because the one time she said something that it made it sound like she didn't live there. It just confused me. So I was like, no, that's not Dylan, because what was it? Let me see. There was one quote that it just made me like say, there's no way that's her. Where is it? I don't know. We can go through that later because I want to get to this other stuff first, but oh wait, what happened? That was weird. Oh, I'll go through that. Oh, these are some of the old files from like way back. Hold on, we'll get to that in 1 minute. Hold on, I just want to see what I all have. I forget what I all. Okay. Okay, so let me do the maps real quick. I added some things in so we could see. Actually, hold on. Before we go to the maps, just to kind of mix it up, let me play a video and then we'll do the map stuff. Because look, I mean, even when he went down here, I mapped out all that when he went down there and everything. So we'll go over all that. And then the only part that I didn't get done yet is the before and after, a little part before and after that I'm still working on, which I had it a couple years ago and freaking lost it. I'm so mad. I know I keep talking about that, but it makes me so mad because I spent so many hours on it and it lost. Okay. Let me play a couple videos here. Let's do.
A police detective was taken 6 hours after the.
All right, I'm going to skip through. I'm going to skip some of this. I wanted to play a couple parts though.
Was being allowed in the courtroom during the trial, prosecutors wrote, the state may call members of the Kohberger family to testify at trial. prior to start of trial, the state anticipates it will motion the court, or the court will, on its own accord, generally exclude testifying witnesses from the courtroom so that they cannot hear other witnesses' testimony. Prosecutors are objecting to members of Kohberger's family who are on the state's witness list from being in the courtroom during the trial until after they testify. So which family members could be called to the stand by prosecutors? We know Brian Kohberger's father, Michael Kohberger, drove from Pullman, Washington to Pennsylvania with his son in December of 2022. That cross-country trip was pre-planned for the holidays. Could Michael Kohberger be called to testify about that drive or something that happened once they arrived at the Kohberger home in Pennsylvania? Maybe. Dateline had reported in 2023 that one of Kohberger's older sisters was suspicious of her brother's behavior over that holiday and suggested he may have committed the murders. One of those sisters is Amanda Kohberger. She's seen in these photos from a movie she was a part of filming back in 2011. Ironically, it involved a stabbing. But what else could the Kohbergers testify about? Well, we know from the defense that the Kohbergers shared an Amazon account, and prosecutors say Brian Kohberger bought a K-bar knife on Amazon. Kohberger's lawyers have asked the judge to bar prosecutors from presenting evidence of the Amazon account's click history, arguing it was a shared family account and AI can influence what a customer clicks on. I want to tell you about a free app that I've tried. It's called Upside. It gives you cash back on things that you use each day, like gas, groceries, and takeout. You can transfer the cash you get back straight into your bank account. When I pump gas or I go to Dunkin' for a cup of tea, I use Upside. I've even used it when I order pizza. Here's how it works. Download Upside, claim an offer for whatever you're buying, and pay as usual using a debit or credit card. Follow the steps and get paid. It's that easy. To find out how much you could earn, click the link in the description to download Upside or scan the QR code on your screen and use our promo code CrimeFix to get an extra 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. That's promo code CrimeFix for an extra 25 cents back on your first tank of gas. And now we may have a hint of what the defense may claim about that K-bar knife. And a new document they write. The state ignores that the Amazon records reflect a household of users on the Amazon account at issue and a long list of items purchased over a period of several months for a road trip or hiking, to include a roadside repair kit, a tire inflator, a backpack, and bear spray. Is the defense going to say that Brian Kohberger bought this knife for a road trip or to use hiking? Not sure, but prosecutors say the click history is reliable. Prosecutor Ashley Jennings wrote, Kohberger's click activity, which shows a purchase of a K-bar knife and sheath before the homicides, makes it more probable than it would be without the evidence that the K-bar sheath found at the crime scene was Brian Kohberger's. Second, Kohberger's click activity after the homicides makes it more probable than it would be without the evidence that Kohberger had a reason to search for a K-bar knife and sheath after the homicides. These facts are of consequence to determining whether Brian Kohberger committed the homicides at 1122 King Road, the central question before the jury. This evidence is clearly relevant. So prosecutors dropped that bomb toward the end of their response to that defense motion, confirming after all of this time that Brian Kohberger bought a K-bar knife, sheath, and sharpener on Amazon. Jennings went on to write, the defendant touches on the issue of identifying the account user making the Amazon search inquiries as shown by click activity. The state recognizes that the identity of the user making the inquiries is relevant, and the state intends to rely not only on the click activity, but also other circumstances to connect the defendant to the original knife purchase and subsequent search inquiries for a replacement knife and or sheath. This will include the defendant's financial activities, the click activities vis-a-vis other events, such as the homicides, a related purchase activity connected only to the defendant, and testimony from witnesses with knowledge that the defendant purchased a K-bar knife. So could one of the Kohberger family members be testifying about the purchase of the knife? They would have access to that shared family account. We'll have to wait and see. Next up, the state has asked Judge Hippler to bar the defense from using the "some other dude did it" defense. Prosecutors say the evidence points squarely at Kohberger, but the defense says they should be allowed to point the finger at other suspects in an effort to present a full defense. Ann Taylor wrote, The state argues that literally thousands of tips regarding possible perpetrators were received by law enforcement during the course of the investigation, and that none of these tips were substantiated, with the exception of information regarding the defendant. The state is correct that over 45,000 tips have been disclosed and tips continue to come in daily. This case is full of alternative perpetrators. The state has chosen to focus on Mr. Kohberger at its own peril. Mr. Kohberger will produce offers of proof related to many alternate perpetrators in this case that will meet Idaho Rules of Evidence 401, 402, and 403. Many alternate perpetrators can be connected to the crime. The defense has a footnote in that paragraph that references a sealed motion to suppress the genetic genealogy information in the case. So is the defense referring to alternative perpetrators mentioned in the genetic genealogy searches performed by the FBI? It sounds like it. Now, there's been a lot of fighting in court over that investigative genetic genealogy evidence the FBI used to identify Brian Kohberger as a suspect. Police said that DNA taken from this part of the snap on the K-bar knife sheath found next to Maddie Mogan came from a male, and it was a single source, but they had to use that genetic genealogy to trace it to Brian Kohberger. The jury isn't going to hear about this at trial. When it comes to genetic genealogy, they'll only be told that police got a tip that led them to Kohberger. The defense claims the prosecution is going to sanitize this. Prosecutors fired back, writing, "It is unclear what the defendant means in the last sentence of his reply, since this testimony will be sanitized for presentation to the jury to avoid the IGG process. It must also not falsely suggest that there was any other evidence or tip that led the state to Mr. Kohberger. There is substantial evidence gathered both prior to the tip and subsequently, leading to Mr. Kohberger being the person responsible for the November 13th, 2022 homicides and burglary. The state will certainly not falsely produce or refer to this other evidence, but will rely on all of this evidence at trial to establish the defendant's guilt." Now, it will be interesting to find out what evidence police gathered prior to the tip that led to Kohberger, because Moscow Police Detective Brett Payne testified until December 19th, 2022, he had never heard the name Brian Kohberger until the FBI gave him that name. Now back to the sheath and the DNA from Kohberger that prosecutors say was found on the snap. The defense doesn't want the manager of the DNA lab in Idaho, Riley Nolan, calling the DNA touch or contact DNA or offering an opinion about when or how Kohberger's DNA ended up on the sheath. Kohberger's lawyers say DNA can be transferred onto an item any number of ways, but prosecutors say not so fast, and so does Riley Nolan. Nolan wrote in an affidavit, "The phrase touch DNA is widely used in the forensic DNA community and was used in Dr. Ruth Ballard's expert witness disclosures for this case when referring to the DNA on the knife sheath. It is typically used to describe DNA collected from items of evidence in areas on the item that would most likely be touched by the user of that item." Prosecutors write, Ms. Nolan's use of the phrase touch DNA is not unique, but common within the field. Most tellingly, defendant's own DNA expert plans to use the phrase touch DNA in reference to the DNA on the knife sheath. No blood, hair, or DNA from him was found on any of the crime scene evidence except the touch DNA on the knife sheath. Experts in other cases also use the phrase touch DNA in the same way. And Riley Nolan is ready to testify about the amount of DNA on the sheath. The term trace DNA implies amount. The word trace is defined as a very small amount and is used in the scientific literature when describing evidence samples with low amounts of DNA that do not yield a profile or only a partial profile. I would not be willing to use that term, and it would be inappropriate to apply that term to the DNA on the knife sheath because a trace amount of DNA is not what was detected on item 1.1, and referring to it as trace DNA would be misleading to the trier of fact. So Nolan says this was not a small amount of DNA. Recently, I spoke to DNA expert Kristen Slaper about that amount of DNA taken from the sheath.
So 0.168 ng per UL. Tell me, how much DNA is that? Is that a lot of DNA? Is that a little bit of DNA?
Yeah. So in my opinion, that's a lot of DNA. That's 0.168 nanograms per microliter. And at least in my lab, we would target, 1 nanogram of DNA. So you would need 1 microliter, which is a very tiny amount. If you took all of that sample and you put it into the system, it would be way too much for the system to handle to produce a DNA profile. The amount of DNA, the target that you have for your system is all based on lab validation. So this lab would have had a validation that said this is the ideal amount to get a single source profile or whatever. But you can get a DNA profile with far less DNA than what is there. So I think it's a decent amount of DNA. Can you say where it came from? No. I think the other thing that's important is it's single source. So when you start to talk about transfer, and I think even in one of the documents, they have a diagram of the different types of transfer, whether it's primary transfer, secondary. When you're talking about a single source profile that has been transferred onto an item, it seems like it stands to reason that it is from the direct application of that DNA onto that item. Now, if you're talking about touch DNA, people shed DNA in various rates. And that's one of the biggest arguments that you'll find is that there's no way of knowing if I touch something one time and then you swab it, will you get my profile off of it? Versus if you swab the same item, you may shed more DNA or more skin cells onto an item than I do. So there's no way of knowing, but ultimately it's from one person, which means if someone else transferred Brian Kohberger's DNA onto this item, they had to have something from Brian Kohberger and put it on the item without also mixing themselves into there. So the biggest case that, probably in the history where planting evidence was known is the O.J. Simpson trial or the O.J. Simpson case. And if you recall the evidence in that case, there was a lot of it. But they had a vial of O.J. Simpson's blood that they had collected from him. So the idea that they could take his blood and potentially put it on items to plant the evidence, blood has a lot of DNA in it, and they could then take it. They would have had to know who Brian Kohberger was. They would have had to have a sample from him and also put only his DNA onto this item.
Now, remember that selfie of Brian Kohberger that I showed you last week? Prosecutors say they pulled this off of Kohberger's phone and that he took it 6 hours after the murders. They want to show it at trial to back up the testimony of the surviving roommate, DM, who described the man she saw walking through the house as having bushy eyebrows. Well, Kohberger's attorneys, they're not happy about that selfie. Alicia Massif writes, the photo of Mr. Kohberger that the state attached to its response is not relevant and is overly prejudicial. This is akin to the state trying to identify Mr. Kohberger for DM or create its own corroboration for her. DM previously said that she could not identify him. There are literally millions of people in the world who might be described as having bushy eyebrows. The term itself is subjective, and DM has a fascination with drawing eyes and eyebrows. Massif goes on to write that a detective was the first to ask DM about the color of the man's eyebrows on the day of the murders, and then DM didn't bring up the bushy eyebrows until November 17th in another interview with police. And look at this. Massif included this sketch from DM. Detectives asked her to draw the type of mask that she saw that man wearing. I flipped it around so you could see it from top to bottom. Prosecutors are now revealing that Kohberger bought a black balaclava from Dick's Sporting Goods in January 2022, and that it's similar to the mask that DM sketched. Now, Kohberger's lawyers are pushing back against the bushy eyebrows description. They say allowing it would basically be pointing the finger right at Kohberger. Meanwhile, prosecutors have included a photo of Kohberger's driver's license from Washington State. The photo was taken 4 months before the murders. Kohberger's lawyers are also responding to prosecutors, saying their motion to strike the death penalty should be denied because Kohberger has autism spectrum disorder. The defense writes, Mr. Kohberger's ASD makes a fair and just trial a challenge. The state argues news coverage is not informative on this topic. The state benefits from the biased news media. Public sentiment is that Mr. Kohberger's physical presentation makes him look guilty through no fault of his own. His flat affect, intense gaze, awkward body posture, holding still in the courtroom, inability to react and process what is happening in the courtroom, and inability to show emotion could cause enough juror bias to convict him. Without a doubt, his ability to testify in trial and the decision to testify will be nearly impossible for Mr. Kohberger. He has no ability to perceive what it will feel like and whether he should in fact testify. His inability to read the room, understand the threat that cross-examination will present, or explain himself in socially acceptable ways without prosody of speech presents insurmountable hurdles for him. The defense also points to Kohberger's arrest in Pennsylvania to show how his autism impacts him. The defense writes he has an inability to assist with mitigation evidence and understand the magnitude of his case. By way of example, when he was arrested in his home with a full SWAT team, doors broken and parents zip-tied, he made small talk with the detective in the back of the car during the ride to the police station. He asked the officer about his education and suggested that they get coffee at a later date. He did not perceive the profoundly serious nature of the moment and exhibited no perception of what was happening.
I just want to point something out. Parents were zip tied? I didn't realize that. Let me go back. Parent, full SWAT team, doors broken, parents zip tied. Wow. Huh. Interesting. Anyway. I can't wait to get some body cam and dash cam or watch those, but I don't even know if they'll be available because this is like kind of like the Delphi case where everything's kind of hush hush sealed. And I think the reason why a lot of this stuff is because of the defense. Ian Taylor's trying to get it all like sealed up, but with Delphi, it was more the state was trying to seal up everything. It was the defense trying to get everything made available, I feel like. But yeah, I don't know. Hopefully, do we know if we're going to be able to watch the trial? I don't even know if our video is going to be allowed in the trial. Because if not, I mean, I'm sure they'll show the body cams. I'm guessing to the jury. Hopefully they'll release it because that'd be interesting to see. No, they're not. So we're definitely not going to be able to watch it. Wow. Oh, really? Maybe. Yeah, Mom, maybe. Okay, yeah. Okay. But what I was wondering if their main person they were of interest who they were going for was Brian, why zip tie the parents? But I guess they don't know how they're going to react. I mean, they could be like crazy and react really bad. So they have to go safety. But why wouldn't they use handcuffs? Like, cause zip ties, I feel like are more, when I see like, think of zip ties, I feel like that's more, what's the word for it? Degrading, inhumane type thing. It just reminds me of like what a criminal would do. Does that make sense? Like, I would think like handcuffs or maybe detain them, you know, like, but I guess, I mean, I guess it's not. Yeah, I mean, I realized it was to detain them, but I mean, I didn't know that. I didn't know that they used them with that. I didn't know that they used zip ties on his parents.
All right. So there is a lot to talk about here. We haven't even gotten to all of it yet, but we are going to do that with Josh Ritter. He is a former prosecutor, currently a defense attorney in Los Angeles. So Josh, I have to get your thoughts on possibly hearing from members of Brian Kohberger's family. The state says they may very well call members of his family to testify against him. Your thoughts on that? Because we heard a lot about him possibly acting very strangely when he was home for the holidays. And obviously we know his dad drove cross country with him from Washington to PA.
Yeah, it's wild stuff. I mean, you just usually do not see this. Though it's not, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just kind of usually the defendant's family is off bounds for the prosecution. But in this case, it kind of makes sense if you think about it. For one, the reasons you point out, it's probably important for jurors to understand what he was doing when he was back at home in Pennsylvania. Does that include things like cleaning up his vehicle? Does that include things like discarding items in the home? Does that include things like being very meticulous as to what was being put into the garbage? This is all circumstantial evidence of somebody who might be covering up a crime. They also might be calling them to just kind of create a timeline. Where was he? When did you?
Okay, so I'm not going to play the rest of this. It's just, I'm not a big, this guy just kind of is boring. I feel like you don't really learn anything new. I don't know. I'm going to skip it because I just wanted to play that. The main part I wanted to show you is that somebody talking about the evidence not being a lot, or it being a lot. I didn't even think to type in the amount of evidence to see, is that a lot of DNA? I'm sure if we type it in, we'll probably get the same result. I don't know why I should have thought of that, but she's saying that the amount on the DNA on this snap is enough. I mean, it's a lot. It's not like a tiny bit. It's a lot, and it's single source, which means it's only his. So if it was like transfer, you would think that would be mixed with something, it's another person's DNA, but it's a single source DNA, which she said typically that's usually they're the ones that put it on. They're the ones that get it onto. I can't even think of the right word right now, but they're the ones that put the DNA onto the whatever it is. It's them. You know, it's not like somebody transferring. You know what I'm saying? Like it being transferred from somebody else or whatever. Now, I guess, I don't know. I know a lot of people that think he's innocent are like going with like, oh, he was framed, but like, why? I mean, why? What is the importance of framing him? And if I'm trying to think, if he was framed, I don't know. I don't see that, in my opinion. No, well, no, but CB, what about during the trial? The jury will be there. I'm talking about during the trial. Why would they? Why can't I'm talking about? Are they going to have videos during the trial? Because the jury will already be there for that. All right. Now I forgot. There's a couple articles that I had wanted to show last time. Here, let me go over it, and then I'll go over the maps. But I wanted to go over. Well, that one got messed up. Hold on. Go over a couple articles. Let's see. I forget which ones. I emailed them. Forget what they're about. This one is, let's see. Idaho murder suspect Kohberger tries to block crucial video and Venmo payments from trial. Brian is now fighting to block key evidence, including surveillance footage, his Venmo and PayPal activity, and his student records from his capital murder trial. In a new motion filed Monday, which this is a few weeks old, I feel like. Well, March. It's not that old, but a few weeks old. Like few weeks old, I think I got this, or maybe last week. Anyway, arguing that much of it's too broad and its relevance unclear. As part of this, the defense took aim at surveillance footage from the night of the murders. The footage, which has been circulating online but has not been released by authorities, was captured on an apartment complex on Linda Lane, close to the crime scene. Prosecutors have previously revealed that a white Hyundai Elantra, matching the description of Kohberger's vehicle, was spotted circulating the student's home or at around 4 a.m. on November 13th, 2022. The vehicle was then allegedly seen speeding away. Kohberger's arguing the footage prosecutors want to enter as evidence is 12 and a half hours long, make it impossible for defense to wade through. But Brian, the parts that they're going to focus on is just that half hour or hour. They're not going to focus on the other. You know what I'm saying? So you really just focus on that hour of when you appear on it and when it happens. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to go through the whole 12 hours. The defense is also pushing back against evidence, several other surveillance videos taken from local businesses, Bagel Shop, Cafe Arista, Sunset Mart, the Grub Truck. So here's some pictures. There's Anna, Ethan, Maddie, and Kaylee. The state has not provided any specifics related to what it intends to rely on or use as evidence, the defense argues. Kohberger is accused of murdering Mogan, Jana, Eason, and Maddie. Following a series of delays, the 30-year-old criminology PhD student is finally set to go on trial. Let's see. He's seeking to limit his bank records and all that. Okay, let's see. The filing also points to a purchase made by Kohberger at sportswear company Under Armour. So that's another thing, that Under Armour on June. So they must think whatever he purchased there, but that was 5 months before. They probably think he probably wore that. I'm guessing is what they're. I mean, who knows? I guess we'll see what the relevance is going to be. But you think if they're focusing on that, is probably thinking that whatever he bought there was used in committing the crime. The Dick's Sporting Goods. Okay, let me see the other. Hold on. There's a couple of them. This is another article I wanted to read. What is this one? Let's see. Oh, about the, hold on. Let me turn off this air conditioner 1 second. And then we'll read these and then we'll go over the map. This is the other one I want to go over. Okay. 1 second, guys. I'm starting to get hot, so I turn on the air, but it really affects the sound. So I'm going to turn that off. Okay. So this one, isn't that funny? Look what's coming up in my advertisements now because I searched it. It's crazy. It's fitting because it's like coming up under. I don't know, that's kind of funny. I mean, it's not funny, but it's just, gosh, advertisements are so quick and like accurate. Like since I searched that yesterday, I mean, it's already coming up. Okay, so this one is the one where unidentified male blood DNA found at Idaho home of murdered college students could aid Brian Kohberger's defense. This is from October 26th. The grand jury indictment, 2023. Detectives who investigated the Moscow homicides found blood at the crime scene from 2 still unidentified males. Attorneys for the man charged with murder revealed at a recent hearing, hinting to a possible legal defense strategy. An unknown individual's blood DNA was discovered on a handrail in the off-campus home where the 4 University of Idaho students were fatally stabbed. Another unknown blood sample was found on a glove that police located just outside the home. Brian Kohberger's lead defense attorney told the court late last month. In the bed of one of the stabbing victims, police say they also found what many regard as the case's key piece of evidence, a leather sheath for a fixed blade knife. During processing DNA was discovered on the sheath and later matched directly to Kohberger. In legal filings from June, his defense said that state's claim is not from blood, but rather touch DNA on the sheath located at the violent scene. In those same filings, the defense said DNA from 2 additional males was found inside the home, as well as the male DNA found on the glove outside. And it says in August 2023 that those DNA samples were not uploaded to try to identify them through FBI's national DNA database, known as CODIS, because they were not eligible based on the criteria. It was not publicly known until last month's court hearing that at least 2 of the unknown male DNA samples came from blood, and the type of the 3rd male DNA remains unclear, as does if its source has since been identified. But wait, hold on. I want to see something, because wasn't there so DNA, okay, but blood on the handrail, okay, and then blood on the glove, okay. Police did not disclose the unidentified blood DNA samples to a magistrate judge on December 2022 when they sought a warrant for Kohberger's arrest. Defense attorney Ann Taylor alleged at last month's hearing, and prosecutors did not dispute. So I wish they would like let us like be transparent on like, so they didn't test the DNA. Now, when they say that they didn't match the criteria, is he saying the blood didn't match the criteria or the other source? Does that mean it's not enough, you know? Wow. So it says, that decision amounted to the detectives intentionally omitting the information to the judge for her determination of probable cause and should disqualify some evidence, Taylor said. Ada County District Judge Stephen Hippler pushed back on the defense at the January hearing. How does that, even if disclosed, preclude a finding of probable cause when there's a DNA match between the DNA on the sheath and Mr. Kohberger? He asked Taylor. Isn't that probable cause every day and twice on Sunday? Yeah, just because one exists doesn't mean that you don't have probable cause for another. I mean, yeah, they should try to get the identification of who these DNA belongs to, but I mean, is it not enough for something for them to be able to do it? Maybe it's really old blood. I mean, think about college kids. There's thousands of them every year going past different things. I mean, so people could get cut. I would want to know, like, can they tell if it was old blood, new blood? Probable cause shouldn't be considered in a vacuum. Taylor responded. She indicated that the decision before Hippler had greater implications for the overarching criminal justice system. If that's the only thing she's told, I can see why she'd find probable cause, Taylor said of the magistrate judge. It's these other things that are withheld that create a context around it. Do we want to have one thing with no context around it when there is this other context that really matters? Kohberger's defense seeks to challenge several search warrants and evidence why does that keep flickering? That's annoying me. Wait, search warrants, evidence obtained with them at what's known as Frank's hearing. The request is akin to appealing the magistrate's judge probable cause finding and rarely succeeds. Legal experts told us, Idaho Statesman. The prosecution objected to granting of that hearing, and Hippler has yet to issue his ruling. Kohberger, a former graduate student, is accused of, okay, I'm going to skip that. Okay. So she's saying the evidence, which is argued as material and exculpatory, meaning it supports Kohberger's claim of innocence, was deliberately kept from the judge ahead of her client's arrest, she said. Because it says the unknown male blood DNA samples police found inside and just outside the King Road home raise important questions about the investigation. Wait, inside the handrail? Was the handrail inside? Why was I picturing them both to be outside? Where was the blood inside? There's one on a glove outside. And then they said the handrail. Well, where is the handrail? Does anybody know? Help me out, guys. Since I missed a couple years of this case, I'm trying to catch up with everything. There might be some things that I need clarified. What do you guys know if where the handrail was at? This information is not necessarily exculpatory for Kohberger, Hippler countered. Rather, it could suggest the possibility that other suspects were involved. If you assume that the blood was related to the victims and not some earlier event in the house, he said. But isn't that outside then? Oh, you mean inside up the stairs. Okay, never mind. Yeah. Regardless if this defense prevails in convincing Hippler to grant a Frank's hearing or to suppress other state evidence, it's likely that Kohberger's attorney will use the unidentified blood DNA from the crime scene to try to muddy the waters at trial to create reasonable doubt. I mean, it would create some doubt. You know, that I wish they would just identify the blood. Maybe it is true that they can't, it doesn't meet the criteria. I don't know. Does that mean it's not enough to create a profile or something? But I don't know if it's blood. I wish they would, because I mean, let's say it comes up. Well, it wouldn't be the victims because they tested that. But what if it would be Oh, it said male DNA though. They did say male, huh? I was gonna say that any of the other roommates. Okay, I don't know. The evidence could be any variety of things. It could be something or it could be a lot of things that are nothing, said Elcox, who briefly represented Lori Valodabel. There is at least something to be made of it, and it's better than having nothing as a defense. The primary challenge for the defense in Kohberger's capital murder case will be explaining to jurors why a knife sheath, which the state alleges had the defendant's DNA on it, was found inside the home where the victims were fatally stabbed. That's the thing that squarely puts him there, she said. The magnitude of that evidence to the state's case was critical and cannot be understated. Kohberger's public defense team has said on several occasions that he is the innocent of the crimes. Taylor reiterated at last month's hearing that no connection exists between her client and the victims. Police executed a search warrant at Kohberger's student apartment. Hold on. Okay, where are we at? They executed a search warrant at Kohberger's student apartment and sought a variety of evidence that included all DNA evidence, which entailed any items with blood, bodily fluids, human tissue, skin cells, and hair. Initial analysis from presumptive chemical tests on a stained mattress cover and pillow taken from Kohberger's apartment came back positive for blood, records showed. The King Road residence contained a significant amount of blood from the victims, including splatter and cast-off blood-stained pattern resulting from blood drops released from an object due to its motion. Wow. So, which based on my training makes it likely that this evidence was transferred to Kohberger's person, clothing, or shoes. Blaker wrote in a sworn statement. So, I mean, obviously, they think he did get blood on him or whoever did it, but like, that's why I think he came prepared and he got rid of all that before he even got in the car. He probably put it in a bag and sealed it up before he even got in the car. Probably had I mean, if he had a plan, you could do that. And if he had a certain, whatever he had it, I mean, he could probably be quick and just taking it off real quick, putting it in. It would take like a minute. Like if he had it all planned in a way that it would only take a minute or two to get it off. I mean, I don't know. But none of what was seized related to the 4 victims, according to Kohberger's attorney. During the search of their client's apartment, in addition to 3 searches of his white Hyundai, police found absolutely no connection between him and anybody from the house. Okay, there's no blood in his car. He wasn't connected to the house, to the people in the house. Police pulled apart components, including the brake, gear shift, and a key fob remote. Nothing tying Kohberger to the victims. On the steering wheel either. Victim Kaylee owned a dog with her ex-boyfriend, and Moscow police found it in her 3rd floor bedroom when they arrived at the crime scene, according to the probable cause affidavit. The door of her bedroom was open, as was Mogan's 3rd floor bedroom, where Gonzalez and Mogan were found dead. Taylor told the court at the hearing. Now, my question is, though, did one of those people that morning open the door? Because Kaylee's dad insinuated that Hunter probably did go up and look at Maddie and Kaylee too. So I mean, was one of those kids the ones that opened the doors, or were they left open? I just find it hard to believe that dog was free to roam around all night and he didn't go in and check on Kaylee and track up blood everywhere. That is really hard to believe. So I don't know. I just wonder if that morning somebody opened those doors, right? What do you guys think? This dog had not tracked any blood around, she said. The dog had no blood on it whatsoever, but was just sitting in an open room a day later. At that time, so they says that he returned to his apartment after Brian did, and at that time, it is likely that he still had blood or other trace evidence on his person, clothes, including skin cells or hair from the victims, blah, blah, or from the dog. It is likely some trace evidence was transferred to areas of his apartment. Now, remember, this is the stuff that he's presenting to get a warrant to his house, to his apartment. Like, hey, we want to search because it's likely that he would have had some kind of transfer here. They didn't find anything, unfortunately, but a search warrant returned with 2 dozen items include 10 possible hairs, 1 possible from an animal, and 3 more possible hairs among all that police seized from Kohberger's apartment, on a list of more than 50 exhibits the defense team submitted to the court. The FBI lab reports for hair fibers, each noting no connection. It is unclear if the 2 FBI reports the defense submitted relate to the possible hairs police located during the search of Kohberger's apartment. Hippler told Taylor last month that a direct DNA comparison between the defendant and the knife sheath at the location of a quadruple homicide would seem too close to the book on the matter of probable cause. The question jurors will have to weigh for a possible conviction is the proof beyond a reasonable doubt standard. There may be, as you say, other people that creates a concern or issues about that need to be investigated further, but I'm not sure that diminishes the probable cause for Mr. Kohberger if his DNA is found on a knife sheath found on or near the victim who was stabbed with the alleged knife. But yeah, so Hippler, though, if you're open to that, why not test those freaking DNA? Test that blood. Figure out who the other blood belongs to. If maybe there is other people involved. So how did the sheath for a fixed blade knife get there? And how did Brian skin cells allegedly wind up on it if he was not involved? Taylor acknowledged that is the most significant issue ahead at the trial. I mean, that's the ultimate question that will be for the jury, Taylor said. What does a knife sheath at a scene mean? Hippler shot back. If you're killed with a knife, that probably means a lot. It might, she said. And then here is the other article I wanted to read real quick. 2 pieces of Brian Kohberger's evidence can completely bring down murder trial by casting doubt about guilt, lawyer warns. There's the Idaho house at night. There's them taking stuff out. There's a bunch of videos and pictures of when they were taking evidence out, people like taping it and filming it, like just bystanders or whatever. Departs court right here. There's a video of that too. I have somewhere too if you want. Okay. Wait, did I miss any writing? No. Okay. With less than 5 months before opening statements, Kohberger's defense is fighting tooth and nail to convince Judge Hippler to allow them to present their alternative perpetrators argument at the trial over the deaths of 4 students in their college home. Gosh darn it. I gotta get her. See, I got rid of my one ad blocker, but I'm gonna need to put it back. It's driving me nuts. The defense claims that because DNA from 5 different individuals was found on the victims and at the scene, the actual perpetrator may have planted Kohberger's DNA on the knife sheath found in one of the bedrooms. And that's fine. People could think that, but like the same people that are thinking that are telling me that I'm stupid and for thinking my opinion. Like, if we allow you guys to have that opinion, then I mean, we should be allowed to have our opinion because I mean, so, okay, so somebody went and got his knife sheath, put his DNA on it. Well, I guess if it was his, it would have it on there. But if he wasn't a part of it, he wouldn't have been like, there would have probably been way more DNA on that. Like, I think it was just, I don't know. So they went and got his knife sheath, planted it. Drove his car or a similar car. They knew what kind of car he had, so drove a similar car. So it would be on the surveillance a bunch. I mean, Oh, hey, Sarah. Yeah, I asked at the beginning for prayers. Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay. So, where are we at? She's found in one of the bedrooms. Okay. The sheath with his DNA on it, it's critical. Why would the sheath of a knife that has his DNA be in their place? Who gained notoriety? You know, wait, hold on. Where? This stupid thing. It's making me mad. I can't find the exit to get this off. Um. Let's see, but then you gotta have bases set them up. The DNA on the knife sheath was 99.98 matched to trash Kohberger disposed of at his family's house. Yeah, he is, Chief. He is. I don't know why they didn't test that blood, you know? I wish they would have. I really do. I really do. Um So recent court filings also show that DNA evidence from 3 different men was allegedly found under the fingernails of Mogan. Um by showing that what that other people could have or would have been there, that arguably starts casting doubt on the suspect, the primary suspect, the accused, as to whether it was him who did it, he added. It does bring an ancillary area, and that is where there are more than one person who was involved in this situation, in this horrific murders. Okay, let's see. I am so hot, guys, right now. Like sweating. It's so hot. Says it's entirely possible when you hug somebody, when you give them a little light scratch, or when you're just affectionately, when you're dancing, and if you're holding hands in a fun situation, all those things could potentially leave DNA. We don't know if it was fresh skin, which would arguably be much more critical than someone shedding. That simply happened because somebody went and got their nails done earlier that day by a nail tech. You could have that person's DNA under your nails, and just because you're going to have some minor shedding. So I don't know. I bet you that, I don't know if the skin the stuff under her nails, maybe that was the stuff that didn't make the criteria too. I'm not sure. Okay, so let's go over the map that I did here. What's that? Oh, I mean, the blood part, though, I do wish they would have just, you know, figured out, like, at least, can they say if it was like old blood or not? Maybe they can't tell or something, because if they could say, oh no, this blood is like old, then it's not from this incident, but I don't know how easy that is to be able to tell, you know? Okay. Let me bring up my thing. Hold on. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to bring this over here so I can kind of read through it when I go through the map. Hold on. Okay, so I have these all mapped out just so I know we went over it before, but now you can kind of actually see it. I just picked up where 326, hold on, yeah, 326. So here is where it picks up from when he enters the area, the suspect's vehicle. So I'll highlight the, it should highlight the map. Hold on a second. Huh, usually when I click on it, it highlights it. It's not doing that. It's making me mad. Hold on. Oh, it's lighting it up, but you guys can't tell. Usually it'll do the, hold on, if I go like this, there, you can at least see it like that. Okay, so this is the first one where he comes in. So it says at 3:26 a.m. So you could see the one that's highlighted. Sucks because I have to have this stupid screen up. Normally if I click, earlier when I clicked on it, it brought this up so you could see it. But anyway, a vehicle mentioned in the description is driving westbound on Indian Hills Drive. So at 3:56, he's traveling. This is where it picks up. So from the, I get, they probably just like purposely picked it up when he gets into the area, right? So he's coming up here. He's going past Linda Lane, which is, hold on. Let me bring up my other map so I could have a, at 3:29. 3:20. So he passes this, all the stuff that hold on, let me bring up. There we go. 3:26. It's right here. Comes up here. 3:28. It picks up some. There's a surveillance right here at 3:28 when he crosses the main street. So when he crosses, this is the main street. When he crosses it, it's Steiner and it changes into Louder right here. So this is 3:28. He's crossing here. And then at 3:29, Louder and Ridge Road's right here, 32902. He's seen, there's a surveillance here where it's seen crossing. Let me make sure. Am I still on camera here? Yeah, okay. Sorry. It's like, where did everybody go? I couldn't tell. Okay. Oh no. Okay. So 328, 329, he's crossing this. And then Linda Lane is also, since it's really close, 32902 and then 32948. He's Linda Lane. He's crossing this intersection right here. And that's where it picks up. You could see on the surveillance a car passing this at 329. Okay. And then at 330, by 330, he's traveling southbound right here. Remember, the house is right here. But anyway, southbound, and then he travels here around 330-55. Yeah. And then comes here. He's picked up on this Linda Lane where you could see a car coming back here. He's coming here at 331. You see lights shining as he's coming here, you see lights shining at the exterior of, it'd be this house as he's turning this way and going up. And then 333 is going westbound. And then up here. And then he comes down here. And then we know he goes down here. The first time he goes like this. I'm on the next one. So 330. Oh, I have them all sectioned. I forgot 330 is when he comes around here. And then now he goes around here, comes here, comes this way, and goes out here, comes back up, back up, back up, back up, and back here. And remember, the house is right here, comes back. This one I have it all like where he just got, and then he comes around another time, right? Well, I want to see how many. Comes around, does the same thing, but this time, remember, he comes around and he goes down this way and does a U-turn for some reason. Instead of going around this way, he comes around and does a U-turn. I don't know why that one's not mapped out. I think I went to the wrong one. I think it's supposed to be this one, yeah. And then he does that twice. Does a U-turn, comes back up, goes around this way again, and comes back around, does that again. Hold on. Does the U-turn, right? But then the next time he comes back up, he goes around, but then he comes down and he comes down here, comes up here, up this way. So that last time before he does the 3-point turn up here, so basically comes 3 times around here, 4 times really. He comes one, goes around this way. Another time does a U-turn. Am I making sense? So one time comes down, goes around. And then another and goes like this. And then another time comes down, does this and does a U-turn. And then another time comes around, does the same thing, does a U-turn right here on Paradise. And then this time he does something different. And this next time, this fourth time, he comes around, comes up here, comes up here, comes in this way, does this, and this is the time he comes. This is that 407 time where he comes and he does turns around here where you actually see the car pulling up at like 407, does the 3-point turnaround right here. It's back here. Oh, wait, hold on. Oh no, he goes back down that time. That's right. He comes, so he does this turnaround and then comes back down this way instead this time. Comes over here. Remember, then he comes here. He's going really slow in front of the house. Really slow. Comes here. Does a 3-point turn here. Comes back. Comes around. Last time, this time he just comes around like this and bam, comes in, and that's where he gets it, and then he pulls wherever he parks to go in, and then it kills him, goes into the house, and then that whatever happens in there, okay? And then when he leaves, he's seen speeding away this way, comes out, comes down this way, right? Now they said shoot. Hate that when it's in edit mode, it moves crap. Okay. Let me exit out so it's not in editing mode. So they say they think because of all the other like surveillance areas that they have, he doesn't appear on them. He only appears that those typical ones where you see him coming down this way, and then there's no other, you don't see the car anywhere on any of the surveillance. But because of that, they assume that he went this way out, because if he went any other way out, they would have seen him. So because they don't see him, they see him coming down this way, and then they don't see him on the other places. If he went out this way, they would have seen him on the videos if he went out any other way. So they're assuming because there isn't any surveillance he's not seen on the other surveillance, they're assuming he went out this way. So that's how he left. And then I have to track out where they think he went after that, which I don't have that yet, but I do have later on. I pick up at 9:12. No. This one's at 5. So at 5:26, his car's seen back in Pullman, and it picks up where he's coming up here, basically, and coming over here. And right here, and that's, I don't know, there's no more that they show on that. And then at 9:12, seen back in Moscow, right here, 9:12, he's seen right here, picks up right here. And this is much as that they show so far is like right, he's picked up on some of the cameras going up. Unless if I still have more to track, so I don't know if they have any more, but right now, I think that's all they have at that time is right here, okay? Then at 12, so then we know he goes home. Well, I guess allegedly their narrative is that he goes home and obviously is showered, and by 10:30, he's taken that picture showered, right? But then he must make a trip down here later on the afternoon. He is seen. And this is Brian, because I mean, they have this person is for sure Brian, because they have him on surveillance, like going in, trying to go into Costco and stuff. So, so yeah, he's going back. let me pick up. So 1234. All right. So here's all the stuff. So here, let me bring up my Amazon stuff, or not my Amazon, my what he does then. 1234. He enters the main entrance at Costco. Hold on. Okay, so the individual appears to approach the front door, the northeast portion of the parking lot. So he's seen approaching the front door, right? So this is where this part starts. He's seen approaching the front door. An individual matching the description of Kohberger appears to be denied entry into Costco, which I'm not sure. Does it maybe because he's not a member or something? I don't know. He leaves out the entrance, returns to the parking lot, and then he's seen traveling westbound through the Costco parking lot. And then he merges onto 5th Street right here and immediately turns out into Port Drive, okay, toward Walmart. A vehicle mentioned in the description travels westbound on Port Drive, turning north into Kate's Cup of Joe drive-through lane. So that's right here. He turns into here. And the Kate's Cup of Joe's right here. He's going into the drive-through lane. I probably should have went like maybe out this way, but okay, and then he performs a U-turn right here and into the chef store parking lot and slowly moves through the lot. The chef store is right here. So he does a U-turn, he's moving through the lot. He continues south, you have chef store, he leaves the time frame. He appears to turn east on Port Drive, so he goes back this way on Port Drive. And then he's traveling east through Albertson's parking lot. So he comes back here, Albertson's parking lot's right here. And he parks up here behind, like it says, behind towards the east entrance, and he parks behind, where is it? No, the upper left corner, and he parks behind the pickup truck. So if you were like coming in, this would be the upper left-hand corner because it says he is traveling east through the parking lot and then the upper left-hand corner. That would be the upper left-hand. Well, I guess it depends on how you look at it, but if you look at his other movements, it's like he's traveling east. Then he walks from the area where the car's parked and into the entrance. So he goes into Albertsons. And he's seen in Albertsons and seen checking out. So he buys something. He exits using the east door. And yeah, I didn't track the rest out, but I don't know. I just thought that was interesting because this right here, I always pictured them to just, I thought he was just kind of like going around here. I didn't realize he was like coming back here. Anyway, so that's that. Let me see if there's anything else. I did want to go through, I had this other thing I wanted to go through Brian's, one of my old videos, but I wanted to do it as a separate video. So I don't know if I'll do that later or not, but let me go through some of the old stuff. So this is, when's the last time you guys read like this statement of Brett Payne and when they walked in? Have you guys walked I'm so hot right now. Okay, so this is some of the old stuff when you did like a records request. It has like stuff from like when he was doing that interview. So this is prisoner transport from January 4th. So how are they going to transport him? It's like, looks good to me. They attach a plan. So this is kind of interesting about how they will transport him. I've attached a brief mission operations that went out to my people. If there are any concerns, let me know. Operation Turtle Shell. The Pennsylvania State Police will be transporting a high priority inmate, Brian Kohberger, via aircraft to the Moscow Regional Airport on 1/3/23 at approximately 15:30 hours. Mr. Kohberger is currently in PSP custody per warrant issued out of Utah. The case has garnered significant media attention nationwide. This attention has generated a large media presence in the area, as well as attracted the interest of many citizens. Due to this heightened awareness, the potential for unforeseen threats related to the transport of Mr. Kohberger and the potential information compromise due to media overwatch. Kohberger's transport has been deemed high risk. They will meet at the initially rally point in the parking lot northwest of Target. They'll ensure all required equipment, including vehicles, is operational. At the design time, 1500, the team will move from the initial rally point, traveling west on Pullman Road, turning north on Airport Road. So they just have it all mapped out. He's to be secured and placed into a ballistic vest and helmet and placed in the prisoner compartment of the designated transport vehicle. The team will then depart the ORP area operating overhead lights on all vehicles and proceed east on the Airport Road to its intersection with Pullman Road. So the team members, regular patrol uniform with pistol and rifle, personal first aid, trauma equipment, marked patrol vehicles, mostly sunny with few clouds, inmate plate carrier and helmet, belly chains, leg restraints with key, handcuffed. So here's like the map. Initial point, rally point, Target, Great Clips. Oh my God, I feel like it's like 100 degrees right now. So this is the college. A lot of it's redacted, like way back. This is way back in 2023. So there's a lot of this is redacted. And it says people are definitely picking up on the fact that Kohberger applied to be our research fellow. I already forwarded you a couple of media inquiries specific to that. I assume the gag order isn't relevant since it's not part of the criminal case, but I'm also seeing buzz about it on social media for your information. So there's that gag order and they're trying to like decide like how they're supposed to handle it, right? Thanks. We weren't talking to media, just playing it safe with the gag order. It says copy. So it's okay for me to come up with a canned response for those inquiries. I was forwarding it to all to Matt Young. Oh, okay. I know there has been at least one records request for his fellowship application. I'm not sure what we have. I assume that was originally emailed to Gary or how the gag order impacts that, but FYI. We've had several, and I found his application and essay in the email archives, and it gave it to Sally. Okay, can we still release that? And the person says, don't think so. I sent you Thad's responses email. Darby says, I saw it. So since it's considered an employment record, they can't have that anyway, if I'm reading that all correctly. And she says, that's what I read too. Forget what, oh, that's the prisoner transfer. Okay. I want to exit out. Hold on. That one. This is the one I just read, right? Yeah. I exit out of that. Okay. Okay. All right, let me see. So this is like their documents that they're collecting for this case, but this is back in like 2023. So they included this, which I thought this was interesting. This break-in, which I don't know if I'm going to read it all because it seems like it's this guy, this other guy that they think it is. So I don't know why. I mean, I guess they included it because they looked into it. But there was some break-in where somebody had a knife, a guy had a knife, and it was just like basically watching this person sleep. Well, no, there's two incidents. One where he was watching her sleep, and then they think it's the same guy that had this knife, and he had a ski mask, and he was holding a knife, and the blade. She said that when the person got to the edge of her bed, she kicked him in the stomach. She said the person fell back against her closet but was still standing. The person immediately booked it, leaving the room rapidly, and she heard them run upstairs. She said the person was silent and did not say anything the whole time. She then put pants on and went into Sadie's bedroom, and she told Marchant what happened, and Marchant called police. They described the suspect as 5'3", 5'5". She didn't know if they were male or female. They're wearing burgundy full face ski mask. Basically, they end up thinking it's the neighbor. So, but they had that included. And with the documents. Probably because when they were looking into like who this could be, this is somebody. It's like, okay, this is something that where a guy had a knife and a mask. So they probably looked into it to see if there was any connection. But yeah. See if there's anything else interesting here. Oh, this is that same case. Okay, hold on, guys. I'll be skipping through. There's just a few things I wanted to point out here. Sorry. I didn't highlight these. I just, you know what? Actually, hold on a second. I think I have, hold on one second. Let's go through these. Let's see here. I'm not going to go through all the other documents because I don't feel like it. I'm like, oh, I'm hot. Anyway, so this is just some of the stuff that was in, like when you did a records request back in 2023, this is some of the stuff that was in like the discovery, all the stuff they collected. So this is obviously somebody somewhere where they got this, but it says Judy Willington. I didn't catch what they were. They said they were in Pullman. He lived ? He lived right off campus, had a live going earlier today of the complex. Let's see. Awesome job. Way to stick with it despite the demanding instant solve. Great work. Safe is relative. Crime can still happen in our town. We had someone recently in a standoff with the SWAT team. A student was shot and killed by his roommate last year at a party. A high school student shot and killed another. There have been other things. We can't go back to thinking nothing happens in our college towns. Still should lock doors, have security cameras, keep vigilant, don't live in fear. So this was just months after, or a month after. They're talking about don't let your guard down. Great work. Thank you. You mean the Facebook comment section and web sleuth pages and psychics failed to solve it? Outstanding police teamwork by all agencies. Well, let's see. This is going to be interesting to actually start getting details once the guy's back in Idaho. All right, hold on. All right, April 12th. Chief Jenkins says Tuesday, April 12th at 10 a.m. works for me. This is April. Oh, I think this is when he's applying for, he's trying to set up an interview, Brian. So this is Brian saying, good afternoon, Chief Jenkins. I'm available after 1300 Pacific time, Monday through Friday of the week of April 11th to partake in the interview process. I'm also available at any time that works best for you on Tuesday of next week. I look forward to hearing from you. So this is Brian Kohberger. Says, I'm contacted you in response to your application for the doctoral level graduate research assistantship for public safety at Washington State University, and you're interested in working with the Pullman Police Department. Dr. Macon from WSU shared your application documents with me and agreed that a chance for me to talk with each applicant would be beneficial part of the selection process. I would likely to schedule an approximate 45-minute online interview with me. Please let me know your availability. So, and then Brian says he gives his availability. And then he obviously met with them. And he says, Chief Jenkins, it was a great pleasure to meet with you today and share my thoughts and excitement regarding the research assistantship for public safety. I look forward to hearing from you. Best regards, Brian. And Gary says, great to meet and talk with you as well. And these are some of the questions that they asked. A few questions that I can think of in addition to Dr. Macon's. What does community policing mean to you? And in what ways do you think research can improve in an agency's community policing efforts? What do you view as the biggest challenge facing police organizations today? Can you talk about how those challenges may vary between a large agency in an urban area and a medium small agency in suburban? As a research fellow, you would be positioned alongside Dr. Macon as a connection between the agency and the university. What do you think the biggest challenge may be in navigating that role? What do you think the biggest benefit may be? So this is, obviously he didn't get it. So, I mean, not obviously, but he didn't get the part or whatever, the assistantship. These are my go-to questions. Says, how would you describe your time management skill and ability to balance multiple responsibilities? Could you explain your process for prioritizing projects? What would a successful first year in position look like? The Pullman Police Department is building foundations. All right. Sorry, this is kind of boring. I don't know. I do have something I want to go over that will be interesting, but I want to do it as a separate live. David, I have interviewed all 4 candidates. Let me know when you have time to discuss. So Brian was one of the candidates, but he didn't, like I said, he didn't get it. Now this is somebody, I just thought this was kind of interesting. Is somebody wrote into them and gave like a possible theory. This is back in what, January 2023. Says, hi, have you ever considered the possibility that one or more of the women who lived in the house were working as prostitutes? That is fairly common for women in college these days. From the photo of her on her wanted notice, Kara The mother of one of the victims looks like a habitual meth user. Here in the Berkeley, Oakland area, a lot of meth addicts prostitute themselves to get money for drugs. If she's a prostitute, it's quite possible that her daughter might have been exposed to that lifestyle and maybe even been pimped out by her mom, potentially even when she was underage. I only mention this because if any of the women who lived at the house, including the ones who survived, have ever worked as prostitutes, that could open up an entire world of people with motive to have them killed. If Kohberger didn't kill them, it is possible he interrupted the people who were committing the murders, and they left before killing the remaining housemates, which might have been planning to do. If any of these women were prostitutes, they could have had contacts with Idaho or Washington members of Congress, which could provide a motive for the Ukrainians to take an interest in them. Oh, my Lord. It is also possible that Kohberger was a prostitution customer of one of them, or that he has a peeping Tom who is staring in their windows from the bushes or from his car. That could be another reason his phone might have pinged in the area near their house so many times. I read that Xana was covered in bruises as a result of fighting with the killer. I don't see how Kohberger could have fought with her like that without her screaming. So it is looking more and more like he didn't commit the murders. I don't know if law enforcement has interviewed friends of family, and if so, whether they have asked if any of them were prostituting themselves. In general, I would think that if they were, some friend of theirs would probably have heard about it. You might also look at archive.org for the websites advertising escorts in Moscow and see if any of the women have an ad up those sites in the last few years. I still suspect the Ukrainians committed these murders, but they might have been more targeted than just a random victims of terrorism. Killing a prostitute a member of Congress could send a very strong message about support and military aid to Ukraine. Oh, I just thought that was kind of interesting. Like, what is going on? Oh, this is just the... Oh, this is... I just did go through this, yeah. I don't know, guys. I don't think I could read anymore. I'm going to cool off. I'm probably going to go for my walk, cool off, and then dress cooler for my next live. I want to do a live where I go over one of my old videos. It's Brian. It's about like his old posts. It's really interesting. His old posts from way back. I was going to go through one of my videos and watch it with you guys and talk about it. But I kind of wanted to do that separate. Let me make sure I didn't forget something that I wanted to do on this video. Hold on one second, though. I have to go with E. Hold on. I know I'm forgetting something. Like, when you're hot, I just can't think. I'm so hot right now. I'll shut up about it, but I don't know why. It's not like it's that hot outside. I don't know. I don't think it's that hot. I don't understand why I'm unbelievably hot. All right, hold on. Oh, this is kind of helpful. So this is all the mapped out. You know, we're at 242, 247. Oh, that was one thing. I forget what document was it. I thought it was in that document I read where they say that this right here where it shows him being home, that's not really where he was at or something like that. That information wasn't accurate. I can't remember what document that was in. I thought it was going to be in the AT&T one, unless if I accidentally skipped over it. But they do, I think it's that same guy points out how he found something different that he wasn't at his house at 2:42. It was somewhere else. But I mean, it's like that still doesn't make Brian innocent. I'm pretty sure if I'm remembering right, it was somewhere still close, but it wasn't just it didn't point to his house exactly or something. But it's showing at 2:47, he stopped traveling south through Pullman, and then it stops reporting, and then at 3:29, it picks back up. The surveillance picks up, I should say, not because he has his phone off or whatever. 9:32, his cell phone returns to the area of Kohberger's residence. So probably after he drives by that 9:12 where he's going and he's in Moscow, he's seen in Moscow again, probably goes right back to Pullman. And 9:32, he's picked back up in Pullman. And then he probably goes home and showers, I'm guessing. And then at 12:36 is where he's after he, showers, he probably makes his way down south where I was showing you. Let me see if there's anything else. Brian Kohberger. Wait, what did I do with? Yeah, that's stuff I want to go over on a different live. Okay. I don't know. That's about it. I know it wasn't much, but I mean, I guess the big takeaways were the mask that he bought, the paper, the college paper he wrote, I thought was pretty interesting because he's talking about not like law enforcement, not contaminating the scene, but you could use that as a criminal too, right? Basically. But yeah, the video I wanted to do next, like I said, it's gonna be it'll be like focused on Brian and some of his old posts. And yeah, that's about it, guys. I still want to go through the because I know last time I went through the Linden Lane, I was so tired I was falling asleep. I still want to go through some of that and listen at different times because I still want to listen at like when they would have got home to see what I could hear because I was half asleep trying to listen to that. So I still do want to go through that and see if you could really hear any of them getting home because I know you do hear people, but it's just hard to tell if it's like people from that complex or where it's at because sometimes I feel like I mean there's people that live all in those apartments, but I do think you could possibly hear them if they're home and they're, they're loud because I mean, when you're drinking and sometimes you talk loud and if they get home and you hear them talking outside before they go inside, I mean, I do think potentially you could possibly hear that. But I was half asleep going through it. I just don't know if I'm familiar enough with their voices. I mean, I've heard their voices, but like to be able to tell from hearing it far away like that, if we would be able to for sure be able to tell like who's who. I know we could guess, and a lot of people have guessed, but like I wouldn't be able to say for 100% accuracy. Like that's Xana's voice, that's Kaylee's voice. It would just be like you would hear a girl's voice and be like, "Is that their voice?" I don't know. I still want to listen though. All right, guys. Well, keep saying prayers for Zoe. And I'm gonna go for my walk, and I might do a live later. And after I go for my walk, wait, what? All right, I'm gonna go all like I'm gonna go for my walk and call Sarah and see what the heck's going on. I feel so bad for her. Zoe. Dang it. Yeah, I want to go for a walk and maybe come back and do that Brian one. I just want to listen to go. It's really interesting. And like I said, I know I've talked about it 2 years ago, but we haven't talked about. I haven't went over it recently, and there are some new people following the case. Plus, I still want to read those. I still have those Wade messages, kiosk messages, those 900 pages. I was gonna maybe like do maybe one video a week, try to get those read. So I still want to do that. Then I have the old ones coming in from 2019. Those will probably be in next week. So yeah. All right, guys, I'll see you guys probably in a couple hours. Bye.